That movie is a shit show. What you think you see, what you think you hear, that's what it's about. It's all theater of the mind. No, it's garbage. It's garbage. Mood and atmosphere. Now that I really like. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I want to see. The weekend is here. The weekend is here, ladies and gentlemen. It is Friday. Hopefully it is nice where you are around the world. I don't know where you are, but hopefully it is nice where you are. It is Friday, July the 15th, 2022, 2:06 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm coming to you live from the VoiceMann Studios in Toronto, Canada. But maybe it's 7 o'clock in the evening where you are. Maybe it's 11 a.m. where you are. Maybe you are fast asleep and don't even know I'm alive. Live, not alive, live. Well, that too. It's not like I know everybody around the world. Welcome to this all Friday Q&A. Whatever you guys want to talk about today, I thought this would be a nice sort of, a nice kind of doorway to the weekend. We are now in the middle of July. We are right in the thick of the summer, ladies and gentlemen. The thick of the summer. We are here. It is a beautiful day here in Toronto. What is it? Let me just check my phone here. What is the temperature today in Toronto? It is, it says it feels like 29 degrees Celsius. So what is that? Hey, Google, what is 29 degrees Celsius in Fahrenheit? For all my American.
29 degrees Celsius is equivalent to 84.2 degrees Fahrenheit.
There you go. It's 84 degrees here in Toronto. Well, it says it's 26 and feels like 29. It's 80 degrees. It's 80 degrees. It's nice. It's that nice warm, not too hot, not too cold, just right. Just right. You know what I'm saying? So, I feels good. Feels good to have the summer upon us. I've done some really good hikes this summer, which is great. Been to the beach already. Want to go back to the beach. That's right. We have beaches here in Ontario. Not oceanside beaches like our friends on the east or west coast or over in England. You guys can go and sit by the sea. But we have beaches on the Great Lakes. Ever heard of the Great Lakes? You've heard of the Great Lakes. Lake Ontario, Lake Huron, Lake Erie, Lake Superior, Lake Michigan, the 5 Great Lakes. They're huge, absolutely huge. Yeah, they look like oceans. Sincerely, they do. I mean, if you're looking at it from the land, you're like, this is an ocean. This is not a lake. Like, what the hell is this shit? You know what I'm saying? But it's a lake. Anyway, yeah, so crazy last couple of days. Halloween Ends trailer. 7 days. Well, actually, now it'd be 5 days. Yeah, that was a crazy day. We can talk about that if you want. If you have any questions in regards to that, we can talk about that. But I will let you guys steer the ship in that regard. I'll let you guys steer the ship in that regard. Whatever you want to talk about, let's get it started. The Slaughtered Lamb is in the chat room today. If you guys have not subscribed to the Slaughtered Lamb movie podcast with Frank Riker and Darren Sands, you've got to get over there. They have great content. They have this great series called The Best and Worst Of. I was on their Elm Street series. They've got Halloween. They've got all sorts of horror movies. You're probably like, oh yeah, I forgot about that one. So Darren, feel free to drop a link to your channel into the chat room. Feel free to do it a few times throughout the chat if you want. Sincerely, folks, you will thank me for it. That sounds like an overused cliche, but I actually and I mean this. I'm not making this up. I actually have had several people reach out to me and say, hey, I just want to let you know, I want to say thank you for pointing me on to the Slaughtered Lamb. Like, they actually, this is the greatest. You're going to like it. You're going to like it. Seriously, you're going to love it. You'll thank me for it. And then I'll send you an invoice. Okay, let me see what... Whoa! Jordan Ellis going going, I mean, if this was an auction, I don't think anybody's going to top this auction today. I think I'm sold. I think I'm your date for the next few weeks now. Jordan goes a very generous super chat of $99.99. Thank you, Jordan. And he says, "Hey Dave, hope all is fantastic in the GTA." That's right, the Greater Toronto Area. "I don't want a new Myers mask in Halloween Ends. The spiritual connection Michael has with his mask is so interesting. I don't want them to ruin that with him retrieving a new and improved mask. Your thoughts?" I agree. I think if you have, again, I mean, you know, we know so little about this movie and sort of what their plans are. Obviously, there are rumors out there. There's a lot of rumors out there. But in regards to your thoughts, I'm in full agreement. I don't think it's necessary to, you know, so many thoughts in my head. Okay, I agree with you. His mask, of course, that look is part of his DNA. I think they've done such a great job. I mean, one of the areas of contention, if not, well, I'm not going to say the largest, but certainly one of the biggest areas of contention for us Halloween fans for decades, I mean, really, was the fact that they never, ever, 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 ever were able to nail the mask, were able to get the mask right. And, you know, I mean, some masks were better than others. Some masks, even, you know, the garbage masks under certain lighting and depending on how they crafted the shots and, you know, whatever, you know, doesn't look too bad in that moment or in that shot or, you know, whatever. But we've never had a movie really, and I know there are people that love Halloween 6 mask and like the, you know, the H2O mask or, you know, yeah, there's like 5 of them in there, but you know what I mean? Or, you know, really like this mask or the rubs. I get that. But overall, there's never really been a general consensus that, oh, they nailed the mask since Halloween 2, 1981. And that was the same mask anyway. It just looked a bit different because it obviously was on a different head. So they've done such a great job at finally nailing the mask. And so I agree with you. I think to deviate from that, I think is not something I would do. It all depends on the story and is it properly motivated? Does it feel justified? I mean, maybe they do that and we're like, oh, okay, they did that, but this actually works because of this, and this. But just at face value, I'm in agreement with you. I just don't, as I've said many times on this channel, you know, I heard from one of my contacts a couple of months ago, it's different. John Carpenter comes out, it's a departure. Christopher Nelson says it's weird and different. You know, clearly this is going to be different on some sort of level. I just hope they don't unnecessarily start tinkering around too much when it's not needed. It's like when you have a painting or a drawing or you're writing a script and you're working on a scene and you're, you know, massaging that scene and you're massaging the dialogue. You can overwrite because you overthink. You know, sometimes you know, when you're doing a painting, you can overpaint. It was probably done 6 weeks ago, but you're a perfectionist. So you start tinkering and the next thing you know, you've done something really shitty and it ruins all the, just, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying they've done that. I'm not saying they have. I hope they haven't done that. You know, they haven't overthought this too much. It's a Halloween movie at the end of the day. It's a goddamn slasher movie. You know, it's not the Shawshank Redemption here. So I'm in agreement with you. Thank you for the very generous super chat, by the way, buddy. Appreciate it. Andrew Stevens sends in $10, says, showing some love for the channel. Andrew, my man, Stevens. Thank you very much, Andrew. I really appreciate that. Really appreciate that. Super chat from Sam Haynes Knight sends in $2, says, what is your favorite Annie Brackett line? Oh, Paul! Oh, Paul! No, No keys, but please, my Paul. My favorite Annie bracket line would probably be, that's a good question. My favorite Annie bracket line. I would say, I don't know. Hey, jerk, speed kills. That's kind of cliche, though. Everybody's going to say that. Excuse me. I don't know. It's a good question. What? You know what? To be totally honest with you, probably what I just did. Just that, oh, Paul. I joke around about it. I put a maybe that's why you asked the question, because you knew I'd go there. But I posted a video on my. Did I post it on Facebook, or did I just do it on Twitter? I think I just did it on Twitter, but it's a video from like 2 or 3 years ago. I posted it before. It's just me in my car. I'm not actually driving anywhere. It's at night, right? So you can't see outside. So there's this impression that I'm sort of driving, but I'm not really. I make it look as though I am. And I just use the light from my dash. And I go into the song, oh, Paul, I give you all no key, what she does, right? And so, yeah, I think whenever I think of Annie, that's one of the things I think about, is just that whole moment. So I'm going to say that, man. I'm going to say that. That's what I'm going to say. All right, what do we got? Let's see here. We got WLJJ Movie Review says people are freaking out because they are refilling scenes for Halloween Ends. I mean, refilming, you mean? Film, yeah, okay, I get it now. I'm like, refilling? Is that a new process in post-production I'm not familiar with? I'm okay with Halloween Kills. I just hope Halloween Ends is better. Well, again, I mean, I've said this 1,000 times. I'm going to say it again. Reshoots are very common, especially on big budget blockbusters, which Halloween is not. I'm not saying the first movie made a lot of money. I'm talking about in terms of its production budget, its size, the logistics of the kind of movie it is. It's not a big, gigantic blockbuster like Marvel. And a lot of the times, studios will factor in that they probably will need to do some reshoots. I just don't understand why. And again, I'm going to use a word that you guys probably roll your eyes at, but it really applies here. It's the nuance. People need to really understand that, just because a movie is doing reshoots doesn't automatically mean there is a problem. And that's what the internet seems to think. There's no, it's like movie doing reshoots. Oh my God. And it's like, why are we going from 0 to 100? There is a multitude of reasons why a production will do a reshoot, right? Or go out and do some, not a reshoot, that sounds like the whole movie. We'll do some reshoots, some pickup shots, right? Or maybe they'll reshoot a whole scene, or whatever the case is. When you're shooting a movie, you always hope to get everything you need on first go around, right? You want to save the studio money. You don't want to go over budget, of course. You want to do that. But, there's an old saying, okay? And I don't know how old it is, but there's a saying, and I might be paraphrasing it a bit, that goes like this. There's 3 movies that you make. There's the one that you envision, there's the one that you shoot, and then there's the one that you release. It's something like that, right? And that's true, because sometimes the movie you imagine in your head as you're writing, or you're in the writer's room, or you're talking to your fellow friends about it, and you're writing stuff down, sometimes can be very different from the actual movie that ends up being released because of all the logistics involved in making a movie. And sometimes you need to compromise or sacrifice on a location, or an actor, or certain gear that you might need, whatever the case is, right? So when you shoot a movie, obviously there are things called dailies, and you look at the dailies, what you shot that day. And if you can reshoot something that's not going to take up too much time, sometimes you do that. But more often than not, you get into the editing room, right? You start piecing it all together. And it's very common for the director to look at it and go, you know what? We should have got that. We should have got that. You know what? If we had actually, that thing we were going to, I think we might need to go and get, and then, Obviously, you need to get approval from the studio. You can't just go out and do it, right? Because you're not using your own money. But the point I'm making is that reshoots don't automatically mean there is a incompetence issue with the movie that was shot. Like I can't help but feel that some fans think that it should just be perfect the first go around. That's what you hope for, because you want to come in under budget if you can. You want to save the studio money. But at the end of the day, you know, reshoots are a very real thing. And sometimes it can be that the movie is shown to the studio and the studio doesn't like the ending, so they go out and reshoot the ending. Yes, sometimes that can be it. But sometimes it's just to tweak something. Sometimes it's to make something better because they don't like the ending and they try to convince the studios we should, you know, the point I'm making is there's a multitude of variables of why they would go out to reshoot something. It doesn't mean automatically that there's a problem. But Twitterverse and Movieverse, you know, online, everybody just seems to go there immediately. Immediately they seem to go there, you know, and then there's rumors being spread and there was all these rumors. It's 2 weeks of reshoots, you know, it's a full 2 weeks, and it wasn't. It was 4 days, you know, and so... Yeah, I mean, don't worry about the reshoots. Generally speaking, if there's a problem with the production, it's evident. You know, it will come out in some other way, right? There will be some other, like the Solo film, right? Where they had to, they were fired, they had to reshoot like half the movie and like all that kind of stuff, right? I just think we as fans need to be a little more nuanced about it and just understand that there are many reasons why you go out to reshoot. It's not because there's a problem necessarily. It's because you didn't get something, or that you realize you do need that, or you realize, you know what, we should actually get this, shoot it from this. You know what, we need to butter this up a little bit. You know what I mean? We need to enhance this up. And that doesn't mean there's a problem. Doesn't mean there's a problem. You know what I mean? So those are my thoughts on that. And as you can see, I'm like, because it just never ceases to amaze me. I think what it is that it's the 0 to 100, right? X movie going out for reshoots. When I see that, I'm like, oh, okay. But most people are like, oh, it's over. It's over. And it's like, what are you talking about? Nobody goes out to reshoot something to make it worse. They go out to do and try to, anyway. I've gone on and on here. Yeah, and I'm right there with you. I hope that the movie is better. I wasn't a big fan of Halloween Kills at all, so I hope that it's better. I hope that it's better. And again, just before you start freaking out about reshoots, maybe read the article instead of the headline, or instead of just the headline. You know, try to figure out if there's more information, because maybe if you were to read, you know, the body of the article, you would find out that it's not that big of a deal. Do you know what I mean? So try to, and again, please don't take that like, I hope nobody takes it like I'm trying to be condescending when I say that. I just, you know, we all know, right? There are people that totally lose their minds at just the mention of the word reshoot. And it's like, well, yes, I guess it could mean there's a problem, but it doesn't automatically mean there's so many reasons. It's like having a bump in your arm. Well, I guess it could be cancer, but it could also be 500 other things. You know what I mean? Like, relax. You know what I mean? It's like a bunch of hypochondriacs or something. Anyway, let me see. Okay. Did I miss it? Oh, a couple more did come in. All right. 1 second. Let me go back. Annie bracket line. I love that. Intel Wild, my man. Intel Wild says, Dave, I'd like to talk about how much of a shit show Ends is going to be. Well, we don't know. We don't know if it's going to be a shit show, man. We really have no idea. And, you know, again, like as I was saying earlier, just a few moments ago, I've heard different. Carpenter says a departure. Christopher Nelson says weird and different. I think it's safe to say that this is going to be, at the very least, different. But to what degree does that mean, right? And again, fans tend to go from 0 to 100. They always tend to fear the worst. And that's just the world of fandom that we're in. I mean, we've talked about this many times here on the channel. We tend to be in a world where, there's no nuance anymore, right? Either it's a 10 out of 10 or it's shit. There's no so it's different. Well, I understand some fans, a lot of fans, just go online or just look at my DMs. I love you guys, I do. Where some fans will be very, they'll be like, oh my God. And it's like, but well, hang on a second. Yes, different could mean, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, but different could also mean, and it could mean like, okay, so basically, is it Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 different? Is it The Last Jedi different? Or is it just like more toned down in comparison to Halloween Kills? Is it maybe more of a horror drama? You know what I mean? So does it mean it's a bit of a departure because it's a little more cerebral? So it's more about, it's more of a character-driven film as opposed to a plot-driven film, or is it more, like there's so many different, there's so many different things it could be. And all of that would fall under the umbrella of different and departure. It's entirely possible. I think because Christopher Nelson used the word weird, that doesn't help, obviously, the situation. But again, that could just be him shooting from the hip, just like, it's kind of weird, because in comparison to, right? Let's not try to read too much into it. I think it's entirely possible that we could all watch the movie and go, yeah, I could see I understand what they mean. It's different because it's more character driven. It's more, the plot is driven more by the characters' motivations, and by the decisions the characters make rather than, a bunch of kills or whatever it is. So in that sense, it's a little more kind of, it's not, I kind of get it. It's more cerebral or, whatever. It could just be that. But it's not, I don't know. Right. And again, that would be different. So let's try to keep it together. And myself included. Okay. I put myself in there too. I don't want you guys to think I'm talking down to you. I'm talking with you. Because there's been a lot of things I've been thinking about too, where it's like, well, that's weird. It's different, But I always try to do my best to kind of keep that even keel, because we don't know. I don't know. We'll see what happens. The first trailer's next week. It's only 1 minute and 16 seconds. I don't think they're going to show that much. I really don't. As I mentioned on my previous video the other day, talking about the trailer, I do not imagine that they would play it this close to the vest for this long and then spill the beans next week. And then they show everything. Because you can show a lot in 1 minute and 16. You can. It all depends on how the trailer is cut together. You can show a lot in 1 minute and 16 seconds. Or you can hardly show anything. It all depends on, the story for which you want to tell in the trailer that you're cutting. So I would imagine that we're going to see hardly anything. We'll get a sense of sort of the feel of the movie, and that's it. And much to the, and this is, and this is going to happen, right? This is going to happen. If they do that and everything's sort of even keel and, or sort of, kind of ambiguous, continuing to play their cards close to their chest, there's going to be a large, that's it? I've waited for, it's not going to be enough, Whereas if they showed too much, they showed too much, you can't please anybody. You just really can't. I for one, am hoping that it is still ambiguous. So yeah, Intel, I hear you, man. I do. I hear you. But let's keep, an optimistic, sort of cautiously optimistic. It's we'll see. But I hear you. I do understand. Troy Grubb sends in $9.99. Thank you, Troy. Says, outside of Star Wars and Indiana Jones, what is your favorite Harrison Ford movie? Great question. I had this thought right now on AMC. I'm watching The Fugitive and enjoying watching you live, Dave. Very cool. Well, there's one right there. 1993's The Fugitive. Great film. Yes, Harrison Ford on Wednesday. In addition to all the Halloween Ends trailer news. It was Harrison Ford's 80th birthday the other day. Harrison Ford, my favorite actor, legendary actor. As I said in my social media post, his star shines a little less bright today as it did a couple of decades ago, but he is, without a doubt, one of the last great movie stars. We have a lot of celebrities today. There are a lot of people that are famous for all sorts of dog shit reasons. It's very easy to get famous today, and it's very somewhat easy to become a celebrity. But to be a real movie star, that's a thing of the past, man. There's very few real last remaining movie stars. And like I said, although his star doesn't shine as bright as it did maybe 20 years ago, he will go down in history as one of the great legendary movie stars in the history of cinema. And we're not just talking about Indiana Jones and Han Solo. I mean, he has a catalog of work that is legendary. And he will be looked upon by future generations like how we look back at Clark Gable, Humphrey Bogart, that kind of thing, right? He's a legend, and he's one of the last real movie stars, you know? But to answer your question, oh God, I mean, The Fugitive is great. Of course, Air Force One is great, but I really like some of his dramas like Witness, and also highly underrated, terrific performance, The Mosquito Coast, or The Mosquito Coast. Mosquitoes Coast? No, The Mosquito Coast. Fantastic film. Helen Mirren is in that. And I think it was ahead of its time. It's, to give you the Cliff Notes version, it's essentially about a guy who is fed up with the world, right? You know, he's like, fuck the world, fuck this, you see that? It's also got River Phoenix in it as well, who plays his son, 1986 or 7, somewhere around there. And he ends up buying this town on this, I forget where now. Damn, is it? It's not an island. It's in like Africa, down like the Nile River or something. It's something like, it's just really far away. I forget now. But anyway, but it's not really a town. It's like in the jungle. It's just this, like a couple of huts. It's nothing. It's absolutely nothing. He's an inventor as well, so he's very smart. He's a genius, essentially. And anyway, he moves his whole family, he uproots his whole family to the jungle to live off the grid in the middle of fucking nowhere, to be the mayor of this non-really existent town at all. And ironically, he ends up sort of becoming the very thing he was trying to escape. I think Peter Weir directed that movie as well, if I'm not mistaken. I know Peter Weir directed Witness, I think. And I think Peter Weir might have directed The Mosquito Coast. It's a great film. One of my favorite Harrison Ford performances. So there's that one as well. Working Girl, great film. Frantic, Roman Polanski's, I think that's Roman Polanski. Frantic is actually a pretty decent little thriller. You know, Presumed Innocent, early 90s, I think. That's a pretty decent thriller. What Lies Beneath, you know, with Michelle Pfeiffer, where he takes on the villain role. That's a great film. I mean, he is legendary. And, yeah, one of the greats, one of the last remaining real movie stars. I mean, real, I'm not saying he's the last, I'm saying he's one of them, right? From a certain generation where there were real movie stars. There's a difference, you know, you can be a great actor, but not a movie star. You can be a movie star and, you know, a fine actor. Harrison Ford isn't a great actor. I mean, he's not like Pacino or De Niro or Daniel Day-Lewis or something like that. He's not particularly versatile or whatever. He's fine. He's like a Tom Cruise in the sense of that, you know, he's a good actor. He's fine. There's nothing wrong with him. But like Tom Cruise, actually, which is another really good example, because Tom Cruise is a bona fide movie star. Do you know what I mean? He's one of the last ones too. You know, there are certain people that come from a certain era, and they certainly come from that last era that sort of sprouted out movie stars. It was a different sort of time, and yeah. So yeah, those are some of my favorites. Let's see. Let me just go back. I know. Troy Grubb got that. Red Foreman sends in $10. Thank you, Red. Says, could you see a Black Christmas remake as a streaming series? I don't think so. Black Christmas? No, I don't. I mean, maybe a miniseries. Maybe a miniseries, like a 5-part or 6-part miniseries, maybe. Yeah, sure. But like a series where you have like seasons? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. It's not that involved of a story, you know, like even, you know, if we get to do Billy 2 here, I mean, that would be sort of the end of the story. It wouldn't be something that you could go on and on and on. So no, I'm going to say no. I mean, listen, you can always turn it into one, but I don't think Black Christmas can become a series. A mini series, sure. A series with multiple seasons and like, you know, 50 episodes, I don't think so. Because then you're going to turn it into something it was never meant to be, right? You know, you're going to have to give backstory and you're going to have to, you know, expose more and bring more characters in and dive into the lore and the mythology. You're going to have to, or you're just going to be doing the same episode over and over and over again. But definitely like a mini series, like a Midnight Mass kind of thing, you know what I mean? Or like a Stephen King's It, you know, from the 1990s or whatever. Sure. Yeah, I could see that. But I think it's got the crux of the Black Christmas story, I think, has a very short shelf life. Great question, though. Thank you, Red. Appreciate that. Happy Sanjo sends in $5, says, I absolutely adore the Solo movie. I'm surprised it came out as well as it did, even with the production issues. Dude playing Han did great. I could not agree more. I thought he did a great job. I totally believed he was Han Solo at like 21 years old. I thought he was great. He was the least of the problems of that movie. And I thought, considering the production issues, Ron Howard, who of course stepped in for, was it Lord Miller, I think, did a great job. He did a great job. And because he's an Academy Award-winning legendary director, so not surprising there. It's too bad it didn't do better at the box office, although I understand why. It was a movie nobody asked for, and it was also coming off the disappointment of The Last Jedi, so I do understand why. But it would have been nice to have seen that story continue because I thought he did such a good job. Again, he wasn't doing a Harrison Ford Han Solo impression, but he certainly brought the essence of the character there, and it certainly helped that he looked a little bit like him too. That absolutely helped. But he certainly had the nuances down, right? The idiosyncrasies of the mannerisms and things like that. And he nailed that, where I looked at him and I said, well, of course it's not Harrison Ford, but I totally believe it's Han Solo. You know, I have no issues with that. So yeah, I'd love to see more. I'd love that story to continue and you know, and kind of see what happens. But of course we know why it didn't. It bombed. Well, it didn't. Well, yeah, well, it only really bombed catastrophically because it was a movie that cost like $350 million, like production budget, because they had basically shot the movie and then had to shoot the movie again. So, you know, everybody's got to get paid again, right? All the actors get, yeah. So yeah, it's, yeah, not something that you want to do. Not something that you want to do. Let's see here. I'm looking for Colin Murdy says, I hope they scale it back and keep it simple to a degree and don't go off on a tangent with far out plots. If they can capture the essence of the original with the modern flair, I'll be happy. I hear you, Colin. I'm right there with you. And yeah, again, I mean, you know, we don't know. You know, we don't know. I mean, it's again, you know, fandom tends to go to the extreme all the time, right? It's no surprise. It's just, you know, and again, I hope for those watching me, because I don't mean to, right? You know, I'm a very animated person. So, you know, I don't say those things and all those things I said about reshoots and fans and stuff. I don't mean to come across as condescending or, sort of talking down to you. I just think that, you know, I mean, you see it too, right? We all see it. Fans losing their minds. And it's like, what the hell's going on? You know, you need to, but I also think it's because we live in a read the headline, move on sort of society as well, right? I mean, I can't tell you how many times that your questions, and when I say your, I mean the collective you, I don't mean you specifically, but I'm sure you've seen it too, that you'll see like a headline and you'll read the comments comments, and there are people asking or making remarks in the comments where you're like, if you just read the article, you'd have that answer. But they don't. They just see, Halloween ends, get slated for reshoots. And they go, ah! And they're like, ah! They don't bother. But if they read the body of the article, they'd, and I'm not saying that information that would put your mind at ease is always available in an article. I just mean that sometimes if you do look a bit deeper, you will find those things, and then you can go, oh, okay, not a big deal. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm right there with you. Just keep it simple. Bring us home. I don't suspect that this is going to be some crazy off the wall avant-garde, thing. I don't think they're going to do a 180. I suspect that it's different because perhaps where the focus of the story is. So it's going to be very different from Halloween Kills, because Halloween Kills is there's not a lot of, it's not really a character-driven movie, okay? It's more of a, it's more about, it's just a shoot 'em up, slasher, shoot 'em up, cut 'em up, slasher kind of thing. And it is what it is, right? I think Ends will probably be a bit more mature and a bit deeper and a bit more polished. And in that sense, it's going to have a very different vibe. And I think it'll be more character driven, right? So that just means that it's really driven by the motivations and the decisions of the characters, and what they do and where, like we might say, because, it's 4 years later, right? And, we're going to find out, how have these characters been dealing with the residual effects of the aftermath of something 4 years ago? How has Allison been dealing with the loss of not only her father, but her mother on the same freaking night at the hands of the same individual? How has Lori been feeling about, losing her daughter to Michael Myers? She survived, but Michael took her daughter. Fuck, how does that change her as an individual now? Hawkins, like all that kind of stuff, I think is what I would expect to see. You know what I mean? I would expect to see that from a writing point of view, that's what you want to dive into now. And so maybe this horror slasher movie will have more of a slasher drama vibe to it or something. You know what I mean? That's what I think they mean by, don't quote me on this, but that's what I think they mean by different. There's just a different vibe to the pace, to the feel of the piece. It's more like 18 than it would be Kills, no doubt about it, but it might even be deeper than 18. You know what I mean? So, and I think that might rub some people the wrong way. Maybe Michael is hardly in it. Maybe he's there, but his presence is there. You can feel his presence for sure, but physically there, maybe he's not physically there until the last 30 minutes of the movie or the last 40 minutes of the movie. Maybe it's really the third act where he's there, but for the first hour of that movie, it's really about the characters and the coping and the town and how I've speculated on that for months. And because I could see that. I don't know if that's what it is. I don't. But logic tells me that it tells me that because I think about the story they've just told and where they've left off and how they fast forward 4 years. So I think to myself, well, these are the questions that I have. These are the things that need to be addressed. So what things need to be addressed? When you fast forward 4 years, what are the things you need to address? What are the questions the audience is going to have? Well, it's all about character. So I certainly can see that happening. And this being more in line with that. So I don't know, man. We shall see. Let me see here. Amadusius? Is that how you say that? Let me know. I'm probably butchering it. Sends in five. Maybe I'm having a brain fart. I'm trying to think if I'm familiar with that word. $5. Thank you, buddy. Says, hi, Dave. What is one horror movie you really love that is considered unpopular commercial flop? That's a good question, man. I don't know. I was going to say Elm Street 2, but it wasn't a commercial flop. It actually was a box office success, I believe. But it was a critical failure. I love Elm Street 2. That's not exactly what you asked, but, oh no, you did say unpopular. Okay, yeah. Although Elm Street 2 has gained a lot more popularity over the years, but I have always been a big fan of A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, even when it wasn't popular to be a fan of Elm Street 2. And I think it could be, one of the reasons why it could be is because, well, there's two reasons. It may have been the first Elm Street movie I ever saw when I was 6 years old in 1985. But it also could be because when I got into horror movies in the sort of around 84, 5, thanks to my brother Neil, there were only 2 Elm Street movies in existence, and there were only 3 Halloween movies. And 86, there was no Elm Street film. So, because part 3 didn't come out until 87. So it's possible. So with that 1 year buffer at such an impressionable age, I was watching Elm Street 1 and 2 on repeat. And I think there was something about Elm Street 2 I just really, and I think it probably even at that young age was the fact that it was dark and mysterious and he looked so dark and menacing and all that kind of stuff. So I've always been a huge fan of Elm Street 2. Always. And I love the score. It's different from Elm Street 1, but the score in Elm Street 2, I think, is really good too. I'm a huge fan of that movie. So yeah, I guess that does answer your questions because you did say unpopular / commercial flop, but it wasn't a commercial flop. It actually was successful because it was the direct sequel to the first one, which of course was such an iconic movie, or was such a success, I should say, at that time. Anthony Stanfield sends in $2, says, what has JJC done as the shape that you like? I think what it is that it's what he hasn't done that I really like. Because what James Jude Courtney hasn't done is overplayed the character. And that's what I appreciate. So it's not that what he has done, it's what he hasn't done. I think it's very easy to overplay the character. That's what Dick Warlock did. Hey, listen, I love A Nightmare on Elm Street. I love Halloween 2. And Dick Warlock is up there for me. I love his portrayal of the character. However, because nobody told him, because at that time, what Nick had done and Michael, he wasn't iconic. It wasn't like it was today, right? Now, I mean, the movie was the highest grossing horror independent movie of all time at that time, so it was huge. That's why they did a sequel. But in terms of Michael Myers and all that, it wasn't a thing. I didn't care about that. So nobody was like, listen, Dick, you've got to do this. You got to do this. You got to walk like this because one day there's going to be this thing called the internet. And people are going, no, he has said, nobody told me, so I just walked like I did, and Rick Rosenthal didn't tell me not to. And Carpenter didn't tell him not to either. That goes to show you how, like, nobody, But what Carpenter said to Nick Castle, as we all know, when Nick said, well, how do you want me to walk? Like, what do you want? He just said, well, just walk. Just be yourself. Just walk. I don't care. Just walk. He didn't care. He just wanted to look normal, just like somebody walking across the street. And I think James Jude Courtney has largely done that. He hasn't overplayed it. He hasn't thought about it. He's not overthinking it. He's just walking, and he's just being himself. Now, are there certain things that he has to remember, like, the head tilt and maybe, he turns like this? Sure, yeah, that's fine, but he's not overplaying it. Like, in many cases, I thought that George P. Wilbur did, or even Dick Warlock with his robotic sort of zombie-like walk, although, mind you, Dick Warlock's walk at the end of the movie, when he's chasing Laurie to the hospital doors, I thought was great. It was absolutely great. It just looked like he was walking. It just looked like he was determined. He had a focus. He had, an endpoint, and he was just walking. I think that's the best thing to do. Don't overplay it. So all you cosplayers out there who want to be like Nick Castle, just walk. Just walk. Don't walk into a room and, and do this kind of thing and turn around. Loosen up. Loosen up. Just walk. Walk. Be you walking. You know what I mean? Just be you walking. And I think you'll find that it'll be more effective, I'd say. More effective. So that's what I like about James Jude Courtney and what he's done. He's not overthinking it. Eddie Chase sends in $5. Thank you, Eddie. Eddie, let me go back here. Eddie says, James Jude Courtney is the best Michael I've seen. I've seen enough. Versatile, menacing, sleek, one, maybe few good stock scenes and ends would be great. Thoughts? Well, I just kind of answered that. I'm in agreement. I still am partial to Nick Castle, but that also could be because I'm 43 years old, so I grew up with the original and I'm not saying that you're not, who knows, maybe you're 70, I have no idea. But I just mean for me, James Jude Courtney or Nick Castle will always be my OG. There's something, I got to put him ahead because he just was a very special movie. And he wasn't doing anything. He was just walking. I mean, you see Nick walk from table to the bathroom at a convention and you could go, oh, there he is. That's Michael Myers, But I agree with you. Like the principles of what you're talking about, I do think he's the best. I do think he's the best Michael since the original in that respect. Yes, I do. Obviously, Dick Warlock, in terms of his stature, was the same size. I actually think Dick Warlock was maybe an inch shorter than Nick. I think Dick Warlock was 5'9", Nick's 5'10", but an inch is, not a big deal, right? So, but because of his stature and his physique, he definitely looked more like he could be the same guy. James, obviously being 6'3", bit taller, but because he's got everything else down so well and he doesn't overthink it or overplay it, I buy it. I believe it. I believe it's the same guy. Even though he's like 5 or 6 inches taller, I believe it's the same guy. I don't think about it, so I'm right there with you. Yeah, he's one of the greats for sure. No doubt about it. Robert Span, is it S-P-A Spawn maybe? Because I've seen that spelled or said a couple different ways. $3. Thank you, buddy. Says, new subscriber. Enjoy your contributions to SLP. Slaughtered Lamb Podcast, maybe? Maybe that's what it is. Well, thank you, Robert. I really appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. And welcome, and thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that as well. Thank you. Jose Reyes sends in $9.99, says, Dave just finished up watching season 2 of HBO's Euphoria and was informed it was all shot in Kodak how do you say that? Ektachrome, I think is how you say that. I haven't heard of this. Do you think a Myers film would be more effective if shot in film over digital? Oh, it's a type. Okay, it's film. Okay, yeah. Film over digital in 2022. Ektachrome, I think is how you say that, right? I'm not familiar with that actually. But the question is, do I think it would be more effective shot on film? It depends if you're utilizing the film's I'm going to say no. First of all, shooting on film is far more expensive today. Far more expensive than shooting digitally. One of the advantages of shooting digitally is, shooting digitally. I mean, imagine, shooting on film that has to be processed and shooting digitally where it just saves to a card. It's a lot easier and a lot cheaper. In terms of the visual aesthetic of film, yeah, I mean, there's always a nice sort of look to film if you have the eye for it. But I think the vast majority of people don't have that eye. I mean, you didn't even know it was shot on film until, they told you, right? So we are so good today. The technology today exists so, or the technology is so far advanced today in terms of digital film production that, it's pretty close. And really what it comes down to, and I'm telling you, when you have an established property or an established story, it really comes down to, because the question was, do I think that a Myers film would be more effective shot on digital or shot on film over digital? Not necessarily, because if you're still lighting it the same way and you're still telling the same story, then who cares, right? It's like if you're going to, like we shot It's Me, Billy on the Arri Alexa Hollywood camera, right? But you can have the best piano in the world. If you don't know how to play it, it doesn't matter. There's people that need to understand that It's Me, Billy looks as good as it does, not just because we shot on the Arri, but because we shot on the Arri with, a DP who knows what he's doing, who has a lighting team that knows how to craft the shots and craft the lighting and, all that kind of stuff. It really comes down to understanding how to light your scenes and craft your shots and working with your DP and talking about all that kind of stuff. So you can shoot a Myers movie digitally today if you know how to craft your lighting and really, work with your DP and the gaffer and really just, take your time to understand what made that original so good and then replicate it today. Now, it's still going to have a modern looking production value. That's just the reality of, shooting on modern equipment. But even if you shot on film, it would still have a, modern looking production value. You would probably have to do some post-production, on it to make it look older or, whatever the case is. Certainly, there's a film grain, obviously, as opposed to, but today, I've seen it. You can put grain, you can digitally add it, and this kind of stuff. And, if you're subtle with it, you can fool the untrained eye. I'm going to say no, it would probably just, but then again, to be fair, I'm no expert in film in terms of the actual film itself. I'm not an expert. I have shot on 16 when I was in film school. I shot 2 short films actually on 16, and I still have the reels, but I'm certainly no expert on the actual film itself. But I just think that really it would be more of a placebo effect, I think, for fans. If they knew it was shot on film, they'd be like, oh, this is shot on film. And then somehow they know that going in and it looks better. But really, it's just you knowing that you can create that digitally as well if you know how to craft your shots, craft the lighting, work. You know what I mean? Because really, that's what it comes down to. That's really what it comes down to is knowing how to craft shots, and knowing how to craft your shots and craft your lighting. That's what it comes down to. And you can do it. You can do it. So that's what I have to say on that. Thank you, Jose. Appreciate it. Great question, though. Mohammed Nabil sends in 50 United Emirates shekels. Thank you very much. Says, what's up, my man? You looking forward to the Orphan sequel? And are you interested in Michael Mann's novel sequel to Heat? I guess I'm intrigued, but I love Heat. To be left the way it is, phenomenal movie. Heat is one of my favorite, I guess it's a gangster movie, I guess, for all intents and purposes. One of my favorites for sure, no doubt about it. I have seen Orphan. I have not seen the trailer. I think the trailer came out to the sequel. I have not seen the trailer yet, so I have to watch that. So I can't really speak on that. And to be fair, Mohammed, I'm not a big reader. I mean, obviously, I can read, but I've never read a novel from cover to cover. I've never read a book from cover to cover. Even when I was in high school and we were doing, To Kill a Mockingbird and all that kind of jazz, I just watched the movie, and I don't know what it is. You would think that I would be really into reading fiction, being the kind of guy I am and how I'm into movies and stuff. But I don't know. I've never really been into novels. So the answer is no, I'm not going to read it. If they make it into a movie, I'll watch it. But I don't know. It's very strange. I've never really been into... Now, to be fair, when it comes to nonfiction, that I quite like if it's somebody's biography, like if it's the biography on Steven Spielberg, I'll read that cover to cover and 10 times over. If it's articles online, I don't care how long they are. If it's something that really interests me, like if it's about the James Webb telescope that just took those amazing shots, or like galaxies and stuff, or, movies, or, whatever, I'll be in front of a computer all day scrolling and reading that. You know what I mean? But fiction, I don't know, just never really been that kind of guy. So I'll have to bow out of that question. I didn't even know that they were doing a novel. So cool. But I will definitely watch the movie if they ever turn it into a movie. And thank you again, Muhammad. I really appreciate that. Wayne Gotke says, Dave, I really think Ends is going to suffer the fate of too many chefs in the kitchen. You have David Gordon Green, Jamie Lee Curtis, Danny McBride, and Malik Akkad, all having varying visions of the franchise. Well, we don't know if they all have varying visions of the franchise, do we? I mean, they might have varying visions in a broader scale of sort of, where they would have liked to have gone. But I don't believe, I stand to be corrected, but I don't believe there is any evidence of those three, in particular in regards to Halloween Ends or the two previous films being not on the same page. I haven't read anywhere where David Gordon Green, Danny McBride, Jamie Lee Curtis, and Malik Akkad were not on the same page. I haven't heard that. It might be true, but I haven't heard it. And I don't think there's any evidence for it. Like I said, on a broader thing, I mean, if you were to talk to them privately, what their visions are for the series, yeah, you might get varying degrees of maybe what they wanted. But in terms of Halloween Ends, we have no reason to believe that they're not all on board and on the same page with it. So there you go. Because let's also not forget that the story they are telling is not what the original idea was. These three movies, for those of you that don't know, were originally all going to take place on the same night. It was going to be, that's what they were going to do. And I imagined that Halloween Ends was going to end at sunrise, on November the 1st, kind of like the original Halloween 2 did, which would make sense. I don't know for sure, but that kind of logic tells me that. But that was the original plan. And then COVID hit and they had more time to think about it. And they had more time to massage it and noodle around some ideas and then they decided to go this way. I would imagine that if Malik Akkad didn't like it, or if Jason Blum didn't like it, they wouldn't be doing it. So I would imagine that everybody is on board. But we'll see. We'll see if anything comes out after the fact. You never know, folks. You never know. Jesus Freak Bobby Reeves says in $4.99, says, for the channel, thank you for always being here for us, Dave. God bless. Well, thank you very much, buddy. I really appreciate you sending that in. Thank you so much. And I'm glad you're enjoying the channel. Let me see. Oh, gee, I want to make sure I get these. They're coming in fast. Good Real Hunting sends in $1.99. Thank you very much. Good Real says, thoughts on Samara Weaving in Scream 6. Wait a sec here. Who is Samara Weaving again? I know the name. I just got to get the face. Right. Oh, right. Yeah, her. Yeah, her. I don't really have any thoughts, I guess. I mean, cool. Do we know who she's playing or, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't really have any thoughts. I don't not like her. I don't like her. And I don't, I've seen her in a couple of things. I have no dog in the fight, so that's cool. I didn't know that. I didn't know that she was in Scream 6, so that's cool. I wonder who she's going to play. Maybe she'll die. Maybe she'll just be expendable. Maybe she'll be the typical opening. Maybe there'll be some sort of, crazy thing that happens in the opening and it's Samara Weaving that just, kicks the bucket in the first 5 minutes of the movie or something. I don't know. But thank you for the super chat though. Appreciate it. Oh, my mouth is so dry today. Thank you for the super chat. Fumbling over stuff. Cameron Woodward sends in $2, says, did you watch the Munsters trailer? Love you, Dave. I did watch the Munsters trailer. Yes, I did. And that was rough. Listen, you guys know I'm not a big Rob Zombie fan. I don't have anything, like, not personally. I mean, in terms of his movies, I'm not a big fan of his movies. The Munsters trailer surprised me. I wasn't expecting it to look in terms of its production value and the acting look, I don't want to say amateur. I think that's too strong. Very sort of just low budget. And the irony is that the movie had like a $30 or $40 million budget. I mean, we shot Billy for $64,000 and our film looks like I mean, you know, which tells me that this has to be a creative choice. It has to be. It has to look this home movie-like, you know, or come across that way. It has to be. Now, I know it was based on, like, I know it's based on the old TV show, but I guess I wasn't expecting it to have that vibe, to have a old school television, episodic, cheesy vibe in terms of the production value. You know, I thought it was still going to be modern, like how the Addams Family movies were in the 90s, right? I mean, even those movies today still look like they have a higher production value than this Munsters film. So it did take me out of it. I was like, what? So where did that, so it has to be intentional. I mean, it has to be. 40 million? I mean, clearly, yes, the set decoration, the visual effects, the makeup, the wardrobe. Okay, yeah, okay, sure, for sure. But 40 million or 30 million or whatever it was, are you kidding me? I mean, I could have made 40 movies with $40 million. I mean, can you imagine if we had $1 million for Billy? We would have been able to do the feature right away. $1 million? The first Insidious was 1.5. 40, where did it go? It's so shocking. It has to be intentional. But also too, did they have a boom operator and sound recordist on set? They must have. But there's a couple of moments in that trailer where the audio sounds like it's being picked up from some sort of built-in mic on somebody's DSLR. I'm like, why am I getting echo? What here? Why? What is that? What is that intentional? It has to be. I can't, like, what? Yeah, it didn't, it has to be. It has to be. There's just no way that this is just the result of incompetently managed $40 million. It can't be. It can't be. You know what I mean? It just can't be. But I didn't like the trailer because I wasn't expecting it to have that vibe to it. It doesn't appeal to me. I think with $40 million, if that is exactly what they had, I want to see a modern look and feel in terms of its production value. And I didn't see that. It looks like a student film, you know, and I expected more. So, yeah, those are my thoughts, you know, and I don't mean that as any disparaging remarks to Rob Zombie. It's not personal. It's just, we all thought it, we all saw it, and we all went, that's kind of weird. Like, why does it? And I immediately picked up on the audio, being sort of an audio guy too. I was like, whoa. I was like, that's what? Like, why does it sound like that? Not every shot, but there's a couple of shots where you notice it. You're like, this, I don't get it. So I don't know. I'm not looking forward to the movie. And I was too, because I liked the Munsters. I did. You know, it was, I mean, obviously I wasn't alive when it was on, but back in the 80s and the 90s, it would come on like, you know, weekday mornings at like, I don't know, 10. There'd be like a block where it was like the Munsters, the Addams Family, Leave It to Beaver, Happy Days, you know, whatever, right? I liked it. I thought it was fine, you know, so I was looking forward to it. I was like, oh, that'll be kind of cute. I don't know, man. This is weird. So those are my thoughts. But I am willing to give it a chance. AK Channel TV says, how much will Michael be in Ends? How much will Michael be in Ends? How much will Michael be in Ends? I'm not quite sure I understand the question, AK. Feel free to ask again. You don't have to send in a super chat, but just at me so it highlights me. And then I'll see if I can pick it up. I'm not quite sure what you're asking. The Slaughtered Lamb Movie Podcast. Ooh, I like your new logo. I love it. Sends in £8.99. Did I get that right? I think I got it right. Talk about that Munsters trailer. Dog shit or purposely kitschy and bad. Oh, we were just talking about it. Yeah, it has to be purposely kitschy and bad. It has to be. When you've got that much money, 30 or 40 million bucks, when I found that out, I sat there and I thought, that's such a shame. There are so many filmmakers out there, myself included, that would give anything to have a $500,000 budget or $1 million budget. Anything. If I had $40 million, I could make 40 movies. I could set a production budget of $1 million each. Now, depending on what the movie is, you can't make a Star Wars movie with, $1 million, but I certainly could make 40 really good horror movies for sure. You know what I mean? Like I sit there, I go, and 40 million on this? Where? I mean, yes, again, the production design, okay. Set deck, yep. Wardrobe, yep. There's some visual effects in there, lightning, yeah, okay. Makeup, yep. But that's not a $40 million movie. That's not a $40 million movie. So, yeah, I don't know, Darren, or if it's Frank. I'm not sure if it's Frank or Darren, but I think it's Darren because Frank is usually in here as himself. I don't know, man. It's shocking because I think we all were expecting a modern retelling, honoring the original show. Of course you want to honor it, right? You don't want to do something completely different. You honor it. But in terms of production value and presentation, I think we were all expecting, something that looked modern and fresh and exciting. This looks like it was shot for the 48-hour film festival or something in somebody's backyard. Not really, but it doesn't look like that. I just mean it's got this real sort of student vibe to it. Not knocking students. I mean, if, really good. If you're 21, and you're in film school, but it's weird. It's just weird. It's weird. Hopefully not as weird as the Halloween Ends movie. I'm right there with you, Darren. Pumpkinhead is in the room. Pumpkinhead sends in $5, says, what are your thoughts of the Elvis versus Michael Jackson comparison? What's your favorite song from both and your thoughts about them in general? Oh, Michael Jackson is one of the greatest entertainers that has ever lived, period. And I'm somebody that you are free to disagree with me, of course, but I'm somebody that tends to think that there was a little more to those allegations than yeah, let's just put it that way. I think the likelihood is probably true. But that being said, I'm also somebody that thinks he's one of the greatest entertainers that has ever lived. You've heard me here on this channel say that two things can be true at the same time. Kevin Spacey can be a scuzz-sucking piece of shit and a phenomenal Academy Award-winning actor. And I think for some, it's difficult to separate that. We think that, if you're extraordinarily talented, you're somehow extraordinarily virtuous. And that's not the case at all. There's a lot of incredibly talented people out there who are terrible human beings. And listen, Michael Jackson was acquitted twice. That's fine. If you side with the camp that says, no, he never did any of those things. He was misunderstood. He came from a very abusive childhood, which he did. We know that to be true. And there's no way he didn't do any of those things. That's fair. And I respect that. But I believe that I think there's probably some truth to it. But that doesn't mean that I don't think he's phenomenal and that I would not have gone to see him in concert way back in the day when he was fucking, moonwalking across. I mean, he is undoubtedly one of the greatest entertainers that has ever lived. 100%. 100%. When it comes to Elvis Presley, Elvis Presley has been dead for 45 years, and he is still the best-selling solo recording artist in music history. Let that sink in. And he never toured outside of North America. He went to Hawaii. He came to Canada twice, I believe. but he never toured outside of North America. Sorry, I had like 10 thoughts in my head at once there. That sometimes happens. It's like I'm a robot. You got to reset me. It's difficult to compare them because Michael Jackson was coming up at a time where, it was a different time. But Elvis Presley, as I've said, is one of the most legendary performers in history because nobody had ever seen anything like that before. And again, we're not talking about, I'm talking about the facts of the time periods, right? So when Elvis sprung onto the scene in the 1950s, nobody had seen anything like it. It was segregation was a very real thing. It was very difficult for black artists to they could not, if Elvis Presley had been black, he wouldn't have been the Elvis Presley we know today. So him being white absolutely helped 100%. He didn't, in my estimation, he didn't steal black music. He was influenced by it because he was Southern. He was born in Tupelo. He hailed from Memphis, Tennessee. He went to the black churches. He grew up poor. They touched on that in the film. It's very evident that he came from that culture. So he was naturally influenced by it, like Janis Joplin was influenced by it. And like a lot of people that came after are influenced by other people. There's many artists that get influenced by other artists. But the reason why Elvis was so huge is because in 1950s America, that music was black music. And it was rhythm and blues, and it was largely in a certain section of the country. And it was devil's music to a lot of Christian America. It was a very, very different time. And Elvis Presley sprung onto the scene, and for all intents and purposes, he took that music and he brought it to the masses. He brought that music to the masses. He brought it to white America. Again, for all intents and purposes. And there had never been a superstar like that before, not in this way. He changed pop culture. He changed the way that teenagers dressed. He changed the way that girls, were going crazy. He was a phenom. Nobody had seen anything like it. He was the first to do it in that regard, in this context. And he was so talented. He couldn't just, it wasn't just rock and roll. It was ballads and gospel and slow songs and he was so talented. He's in multiple Hall of Fames. He could sing anything and he could move. And yes, it helped that he was also pretty fucking handsome. And they took that and marketed it like you wouldn't believe. Nobody had seen anything like it. My dad, who was born in 1942, who was a teenager when Elvis sprung onto the scene. There's photos of my dad as a teenager with a pompadour. They all had pompadours in their leather jackets because of King Creole and Jailhouse Rock. And he touched a generation like nobody had done before. He brought that to the masses. That's why he's called the king of rock and roll. Not because he invented the music. He didn't invent the music. He didn't invent it. He'll tell you he didn't invent it. He said it. He didn't give himself the label of the king of rock and roll. That wasn't him. But he brought that music to the masses, like I said. So, it's difficult to compare them. But the cultural impact that Elvis had, he changed the industry. I don't know if Michael Jackson changed the industry per se. He certainly elevated it and certainly broke down some more racial barriers for sure. And he was an extraordinary talent, one of the best to ever do it. Like I said, he's up there. You can put him in a top 5 conversation with Elvis. He's up there. He's one of the giants. He's one of the greats. There's no doubt about it. But because of the timing and because of the way America and the world was at that time in the 50s, it's very difficult to compare. It's very difficult to compare. If it wasn't for Elvis, there may not be a Michael Jackson. Do you know what I mean? Like it's that kind of thing. But it is important to stress that yes, that music existed before, but it wasn't the way it was. He took it. He was influenced by it. He loved it. He respected a lot of his black peers and fellow musicians, and he had something that they didn't. What was it? Yep. Well, extraordinarily multiple bits of talent. Not that, Chuck Berry was not talented. He was. Fats Domino, Little Richard, they were talented. But I don't think they had the range that Elvis had. But at the end of the day, they also weren't white. And it sucks. Like I said it does. It sucks. But that's the reality. That's not my opinion. That's the reality. If Elvis had been black, he wouldn't have been able to reach those heights. No way. Are you kidding me? So it's a multitude of things in the early 1950s America that helped to propel Elvis Presley to a status that the world had never seen before. And yeah, he's one of the greatest legendary entertainers that has ever lived. It's just the reality. And he knocked down a lot of barriers for a lot of those artists. So it's difficult to compare because they came up at different times, and but certainly they are, both giants for similar but also very different reasons. Hopefully that made sense. Those are my thoughts off the top of my head anyway. Let me see here. We got Eddie Chase sends in another super chat. Very generous $20. Thank you, Eddie. Says, more I see kills, more mad that so much bad dialogue, cringe, evil dies, over the top trailer lines, kept, don't they see dailies? Wonder if screening test audiences reacted bad to late to change by then. Any insight as director? Well, I mean, first of all, I'm not a Hollywood director. But I can certainly tell you that if you do a quick Google search on the test screenings for Halloween Kills, you'll find positive reviews of that, which is why I always tell my viewers, do not worry about test screenings. Why we put so much stock into them, I don't know. I've said many times, yes, if you hear that a test screening went well, it's always nice to hear that. As a fan, it's always nice to hear that. But that doesn't mean the movie's going to resonate with you. Do you know what I mean? You have no idea who the people were that went to see it. You don't know if there was a focus group or if it was just I've been to one test screening in my life, and it was here in Toronto, and it wasn't a focus group, so the filmmakers were not there. A focus group is where, usually the filmmakers are there, and at the end you get to ask questions and they listen to your feedback and all that kind of stuff. A test screening doesn't necessarily do that. But they do have like a questionnaire, and it's usually something that you fill out where you're just like, you'll give like a rating, like whether you liked it or didn't like it. And then there's usually a section where you say whether or not you would recommend it, or whatever the case is. I mean, the questions will vary depending on the wording, but that's generally it. What worked, what didn't for you, that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I mean, there's so many examples of poor test screenings to good movies and good test screenings to poor movies. It's just a gauge. Like, just take it as a gauge. Like, really, we should be hearing, I don't understand. Well, let me back up. I do understand. And I'm not knocking anybody who creates content and talks about it or whatever. It's perfectly fine. But at the end of the day, in my opinion, I think it's probably kind of a waste at the end of the day, because it's so arbitrary, in a lot of cases. You just don't know. So I try not to exhaust myself and worry myself sick because Halloween Ends maybe supposedly got mixed test screening reviews. Okay, but Halloween Kills got great test screening reviews. So, I mean, it's like, you know. I mean, look, when I came out of the Halloween Kills movie, because I saw an early screening of it, and you guys know, I went to Dundas Square here in Toronto, and was it Dundas? Yeah, no, it was. Sorry, I hesitated there because I was like, did I do it from Dundas Square? Yeah, I did. That's right. So I went to Dundas Square here in Toronto, and I went live, and you guys remember, right? I even got accused of talking like I thought it was great and I loved the movie and that kind of stuff. But as I've said many times, on our walk, myself and Bruce, we were walking back from the theater to Dundas Square, and I said we should go live. He agreed, and I said let's not focus on all the bad things. Let's focus on the good things like the mask and the kills and the feeling and all that kind of stuff and the flashback. And but I even said in that video, I said, and you heard me say it, I think people are going to really like this movie. I said that. It was opening. I think we saw it on a Wednesday and it was opening like 2 days later. And I said, I think you guys are really going to like this movie because I was thinking about, fans and the fandom and how Halloween 18 didn't have, the kills that a lot of fans wanted to have and all that kind of stuff. Boy, was I wrong. I was wrong. Right? I mean, there are a lot of fans that did like it, but I didn't expect it to be as divisive as it was. I had a good time watching it. I had a better time watching the movie than I did 18. That doesn't mean that I liked it better than 18 because I didn't. I think 18 is a better film. There's a lot of issues that I have with Kills. But I thought for sure that generally speaking, fans that are not as nitpicky as me and are not maybe as, I'll just say nitpicky. We're going to love it. I thought for sure that it was going to get, nope. No, it was divisive. And I was like, wow, didn't see that coming. So yeah, who knows, man? Who knows? That's why I think to spend so much time on it and do videos on it and all that kind of stuff, not really worried about it. Not really worried about it. And you know what? So I think we should just sit back, relax, enjoy the weekend. And next week, when the trailer drops on Wednesday, we kind of see. All right, they're going to show us their very first piece of marketing material in terms of something visual. I mean, in terms of, I don't know, they might drop a poster before, I don't know. But in terms of, any sort of trailer footage, I should say. And we'll sit back and see what they show us, and that should give us a vibe, maybe a vibe. I don't know. But yeah, it's test screenings. Let's not worry about it. That's what I have to say. Let's not worry about it because again, it can be so arbitrary. It can be. Because you just don't know who's in there. Carter Man 7 sends in $10. Thank you, Carter Man. Says, hi, Dave. Which of these do you feel will happen in Ends? A, Laurie kills Michael. 2, Michael kills Laurie. 3, or D, neither of these. I don't know, but I can tell you what I would like. I would like... between those, I would like it if probably Laurie killed Michael. But I actually would prefer if they both died together. Very much like that sequel concept that I have on my channel. I would like it if they died together. I think that would be a nice sort of bookend on that. It began with them. It ends with them. I know it began with Judith and Michael, like technically I know, but I'm talking about, adult Michael. The story of Halloween isn't about Michael killing Judith. The story of the original film is about, everything after that, right? So that's what I mean, right? It began with Laurie and Michael. I think it should end with them. So I wouldn't mind seeing them both die, maybe in some, big fire in the Myers house or, something like that, or who knows. But I don't know. I just don't want them to leave it open. I know there are fans out there, and this is fine, this is cool. There are fans out there that want Michael to live, maybe even be the only one to live, and then he just walks off into the ether. But it feels, I don't know. It depends on how they would do it. I've been against it for a while now, maybe even up until this moment. But it depends on how they do it, because if they can do it in a way that feels like it's full circle, where it's very reminiscent of the ending of the original movie, then you might have me on board. I don't mean you replicate the same thing. He shot 6 times, falls out. I don't mean that. I just mean in terms of its execution, in terms of its cinematic language and symbolism. If we can watch it and go, I kind of see what they did there. I kind of see what they did there. That's cool. Then maybe it would feel right to have him there and then gone or something like that, or to see him walk off into the ether, or, whatever. But I just don't want there to be a cliffhanger ending. And there's no doubt that although the original Halloween is a complete story in and of itself, depending on how you look at it, it's a cliffhanger. And you have to be very careful. If you want to end the story, it can't end on any sort of ambiguity, giving the audience the wrong impression that there's going to be more in this story. If you truly are ending it. And by all accounts, John Carpenter has said, no, it does end. There is an ending. I think even Christopher Nelson said this. I don't want to put words in his mouth. I don't know if it was the last thing with 2 heads he did, or if it was something before. I'm not sure. But I think he might have even said, oh, yeah, no, it's like, it definitely does, come to an end. But I could be wrong on that. But I know that Carpenter has said that. He says, no, it does end. Like it does come to an end. Maybe David Gordon Green has said it too. I'm not sure. But so there is a finale feeling. So that would tell us that it probably won't end on some sort of Michael walking off or cliffhanger or whatever. I don't know, man. It's tricky. But between all of those, Laurie kills Michael, but I want them to die together. I would love it if they died together. Vince Terralo? Am I saying that? Vince Terralo? Do I have the emphasis on the right? Terralo. Vince, my man. Hopefully I'm saying it right. $10. Thank you, Vince. Says, hey, Dave, can you speak to the inclusion of COVID in HNs? Will this be literal or more akin to kills, hospital scene? How do you feel about the inclusion either way? Okay, well, let's talk about this. As far as I know, it has been reported, and this actually might have even come from Christopher Nelson. He might have been one of the people that has said this. COVID-19 is not a thing in Halloween kills, or excuse me, in Halloween ends. Now, what I interpret that to mean is there is not any sort of driving force from a plot narrative perspective that COVID is part of the problem. Do you know what I mean? That, we're going to see everybody in the movie in masks, and we're going to see news reports on CNN about COVID and how COVID has infected the town of Haddonfield. That is not happening. What you might see, and I stand to be corrected because I don't know, because we did hear something about, it was Curtis that said something about it being like it's in a post-COVID world or something like that. I'm paraphrasing, but it was something like that, which got a lot of people, myself included, going, oh God, no, don't do that, right? It may just be something where there's a mention of it, or there's something in the narrative that lets you know that it's that kind of world now. Do you know what I mean? So maybe when somebody, this is just an example. It's just an example. Somebody goes into the hospital, they need to put a mask on. Like, you know what I mean? It's something, but they're not talking about it. They don't mention COVID. They don't ask if you have it. They don't test you for it. They don't have a 5-minute scene about it. You just see somebody walk into the hospital and they put on their mask. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying that's what happens. I'm just saying that I think that if they are going to acknowledge it being a post-COVID world, it would be some throwaway thing like that. That's what I'm suspecting. But any sort of like, plot, narrative, heavy duty sort of subtext of COVID being this huge, from everything I'm hearing now, I don't think that's the case. It might just be some throwaway thing like that, where you're like, oh, okay, I know the time we're in now. Do you know what I mean? But it's not like everybody's wearing them and they're all out on the streets hunting down Michael and they all got, hang on a sec, I got to put on my mask. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't think that's going to happen. So I would say, let's not worry about it. However, if for whatever reason I am completely wrong, you can come back and call me out. You can come back and call me out. No doubt about it. Let's see. David Irwin says, it's like the way Eminem is one of the most successful rappers, so it's still going on. I don't know enough about Eminem, Marshall Mathers. I don't know enough about him to speak confidently on his influence on rap and hip hop and all that kind of stuff. Or just rap, I guess. I should say, I don't know enough to speak confidently on that. Elvis, I do know a lot about, and Michael Jackson, I know a fair bit about. So I felt confident in kind of giving the opinions in the way that I did. But Eminem, I know he's a legendary rapper, no doubt about that. All right, I got that. Let's go over here. Nick Jean. I think that's right? Jenny, maybe? Nick Jenny? All depends. See, as a voice actor, when I see names or words that can be said a couple of different ways, depending on where you put the emphasis, because sometimes I will, I'll be doing like a commercial script, right? And there'll be like a name like, I don't know, Yarkin or something, right? It's like Y-A-R-K or something. And I'll say Yarkin, and then I'll get a note back. It's actually Yarkin. And I'm like, oh, okay. It's, so it's just, forgive me. It's built into me. But you can let me know. $1.99. Thank you. Off work early and Dave's on live. Great day. Yes, it is a great day. I am live, ladies and gentlemen. Live. And we are live together. How you guys doing anyway? We're going into the weekend, baby. The last weekend before Halloween Ends trailer. I wonder if we'll get a poster next week. Ooh. Might be interesting to drop that baby. Jenny. Okay, Jenny. All right. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, Jenny. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Jenny. Thank you. And you didn't have to super chat that, but thank you for doing that. Yep, I can see that. Jenny, yep. That would have been on my list as well. Let me see here. Slaughter Lamb says Dave talking rap. I thought that said Dave taking a nap at first. Dave talking rap? Turn that hat around. Can you imagine if I surprised you and I went deep, like really deep into like, the history of rap and, back to the, the 80s and shit and like, I don't know, fucking Run DMC or something. I don't know. Am I even saying? I don't even know if they were, I go back to like fucking like Bobby Brown and shit. And of course, was he more hip hop? I think he was more hip hop. Beastie Boys, maybe. I don't know. No, I don't know anything, guys. Which is probably pretty apparent by the examples I just gave. But you know who does? Is Bruce. Bruce could talk about that shit. He knows a lot about that shit. Yeah, can you imagine? Oh my God, that'd be funny. Chester Franklin Jr. says, Dave, what are your favorite classic black and white horror movies besides Psycho? And also, do you have a favorite Harry Manfredini Friday score? Favorite black and white horror movies? I don't know, man. I'd have to go back and have a look. I don't know off the top of my head. I'm not sure. I'd have to go and take a look. And Harry Manfredini scores, I don't know. I mean, and did he do all of them, like 1 through 4? I know he didn't do all of them, but I mean, was he the composer on the first 4? Because if he was, and I'll just say that, I like the first 4. I love that shit. Oliver Mercer says, regarding Halloween Ends, do you know if we will get any more flashbacks or will it all be in present day? I don't know, but I do not believe there will be flashbacks. Certainly not flashbacks to 1978, I don't think. When I say that, I mean in the ways that we would think, like flashing back to 1978 in the same ways that they flashed back to 78 in Halloween Kills. I don't think they're going to do that. I don't get the sense that that in the production of Halloween Ends, they have taken the time to shoot another period piece, essentially, right? Shoot another whole scene, back in 78 and with the Myers house and all. We're not going to get that. And the reason why I suspect that is true, that we're not going to get that, is because I believe David Gordon Green in some interview, I think it was him, said that we're done with the Easter eggs now. Like we did it with Halloween 18, we did it with Halloween Kills. This movie is, we don't need to do that anymore. And a flashback back to 78, I mean, listen, if it makes sense for the narrative, that's fine. Okay, fine. But at the end of the day, it's just really a gigantic Easter egg. And I just don't think they're going to do that. I don't think they're going to do that. I would imagine that the Myers house was probably, I don't know for sure, but I would imagine that the Myers house after production on Halloween Kills was dismantled. Those things don't stay up. Okay. I mean, it was built on a soundstage in Georgia. I forget the name of the studio now, but and they would have used it and then they would have dismantled it. It doesn't stay there in storage. So I don't believe that would still be there. So they'd have to rebuild that again. So no, I don't think there's a flashback to 78. If there are any flashbacks, it might just flash back to 18, and that's easy to do. You just use the footage you already have. They might flash back to Kills, maybe Laurie's talking about something and then we see, the flashback to Karen dying or whatever. I could see that, but any sort of like flashback to the 70s again, I don't think so. I feel pretty confident, even though I don't know. It's just the feeling I have. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they shot this whole thing in secret. I don't know. I doubt it, but I don't know. Super chat from Vince. Oh, here I go in. I'm going to say Terralo. I think that's right. $5. Posters have been one side of the face. Maybe Ends will be the full front view of the mask. And if it helps, it's Turalo. Turalo. Am I saying that right now? Turalo? Not Terralo. Turalo. I think I'm saying that right. Turalo. Don't sweat it. No biggie. Maybe, yeah. I mean, Halloween 18, of course, you can kind of see it back there. Mask is up there. Yeah, so you had the mask on the left side of the poster, and then in Halloween Kills, you had the mask on the right side of the poster. It's always possible that they could have a front view of the mask, or maybe it'll be a front view of him, like his whole body. That's possible. I will say this, that whatever they do, I would expect, because we've seen the 18 one, we've seen the Kills one, expect another simple poster. So I don't expect that it will be a busy poster with a lot of floating heads. I fucking hate those posters. I've always hated those posters. You know what my favorite Scream poster is? First of all, I really only like the first movie. So when I say Scream, I'm talking about the first one. My favorite Scream image in terms of marketing from that first movie from 1996 is the face with the woman going like this or whatever, right? She's got her mouth up or her mouth up, her hand up. I think it's her hand. Maybe it's somebody else's hand. I'm not sure. But it's great. I love that. Love that. But the 90s especially introduced what is called the floating heads. That's actually what it's called. Floating heads, where you have like everybody on there, like this. And then Bob is down here like, and then Jim is like over here going, it's like, God, I hate that shit. I hate that shit. So when you look at the poster for Halloween 18 and you look at the poster for Halloween Kills, both very simple. I actually really like the poster for Halloween Kills. I do. Not a big fan of the movie, but the poster I think is really, it's hot. It's like, yeah, looks good. I would imagine the ends poster will be the same kind of thing. Simple. I don't know if they would go to the front now, but I think it will be simple. It's not going to be busy, not going to be a lot of, show, right? It's just going to be, oh, okay, cool. Yep. Okay. You know what I mean? It's not going to be a lot to look at. Yeah, that's what I think. That's what I think anyway. Hello. The Slaughtered Lamb Movie Podcast sends it $1. I was going to say $1, £1.79. Dave, deep thoughts on bagpipe music. Well, the thing is with bagpipe music, back in Scotland in the 18th century, there was a, you know what? I'm going to save this for its own video. That's what I'll do. I'll save my expertise on bagpipe music in its own video. AK Channel TV sends in $1.99 and says, I meant Michael's screen time. How much? In the movie? I don't know. I have no idea. If it is what I have been thinking it could be, which is more of a, character piece, more drama. And I don't mean drama as in like unnecessary drama. I mean like, it's more about the relationships and the residual effects and the town of Haddonfield and all that kind of stuff. I would say that, it's always possible that the focus may not be on him. They may bounce back and forth to him perhaps, but it's not going to be like, the movie's going to open and the first kill is going to come in the first 5 minutes of the movie. It might not be like that. This really might be more of a thriller drama, perhaps, I'm not saying Michael doesn't kill anybody in the movie. Of course he's going to kill people in the movie. But I think in terms of its vibe, in terms of the vibe, I think it will probably feel more like Halloween 18 than Kills. And as a matter of fact, I think we know that. I don't think I'm not saying anything that you probably don't already know and that hasn't been out there, because I believe that Green and the filmmakers have even said that. They've said, no, it's going to be more, no. So, but screen time for Michael, I have no idea. If it's a character piece and that is where their focus is, it may not be as much as you think or maybe hope or want. Jordanella sends in $4.99. Thank you, Jordan. It says, I'm actually curious what the poster will be. The first two have been of Myers' mask. Something tells me that they could change it up this time. They might. What if it was of an image that you didn't recognize? What if it was like, you're like, I wonder what does that mean? Or maybe, do you know what I would be okay with? Going back to like a classic pumpkin. Did you hear that? I couldn't do that again if I tried. That was weird. A classic pumpkin. I mean, a jack-o'-lantern. A classic jack-o'-lantern. Like maybe in the style of like, the original film. Not a carbon copy, but something that you look at and you go, oh, that's really cool. They are, yeah, that's cool. That's tipping their hat to where it all began kind of thing. That might be interesting. Maybe in the jack-o'-lantern is like, it's carved into like his mask or something, or I don't know, but it's a simple poster. It's not busy, no floating heads. It's just the way it is. I'd be okay with that. I'm looking forward to seeing it too, though, man. I am. Let me see here. And Vince Turrillo. I think I've got it. Dave, will you ever do another true crime McRae live like you did with Jean Monnet, Maury Murray, and Elisa Lam? Really enjoyed those. I would love to. I just need to be prepared for it. I think I did the McRae live on Jean Monnet because I do know a lot about it off the top of my head. I mean, basically the shit we all know, but it's pretty fresh, and I think I just finished watching something on it, so I was inspired to do it. The Maura Murray stuff I know pretty well too, not as deeply as, there's some Maura Murray groupies out there that fucking crazy, Elisa Lam I know pretty well too. Yeah, I guess I do. I would say a bit more than surface level. I can, I think I could do a pretty good 101 class kind of thing. Yeah, maybe. I just need to feel inspired. I've just been so busy, and of course Halloween is a big thing at the moment. And but yeah, I would like to, because I think it would be fun to talk about. The Elisa Lam one is pretty much case closed. I think the Maura Murray one, because it's still open, it's still active. I'm not that I have a huge reach, but even if a few thousand people watch it, watch the video that I do. Anything helps, right? Anything helps. So that's a fascinating case. I tend to think that one, the Maura Murray one, is overthought. That's one, there's so many rabbit holes and so many theories and so many suspects and people. And I think because it's been so long and there's been so many people that have been interested in it, when and if it ever... If and when, I should say, or no, when and if, because, we really don't know. If it ever does get solved, I think it will be probably it will be great that she's been found, or they found her body or bones, or, whatever. That's great. But I think the story and the reason will be probably not as satisfying to those who are caught up in the drama. It's very cinematic. The Maura Murray case is like a movie. You know what I mean? So, like a movie. Somebody accused me one time of saying movie like I'm saying movie? I guess it's when I get sort of silly, I'll be like a a movie. I don't actually say it like that. If I was to say it, I'd say movie. But somebody, I forget who it was, a long time ago, was like, why do you say movie like movie? Is that a Canadian thing? I should have said yes. Oh, yeah. Yep, it's a Canadian thing. Hey, you guys want to go to the movies tonight? Brendan Collins sends in $2, says, new protagonist in fourth movie should worry us all. New protagonist in fourth movie should worry us all. I'm not sure of the context, Brandon. Do you mean that if they were to do a fourth Halloween movie where Michael Myers was not in it and they had a new villain, that should worry us all? Yeah, I could understand that. I mean, certainly I don't know how well that would go over. Again, we don't know what Malik Akkad is going to do with the rights. The rights after Halloween ends reverts back to Malik. Now, it is always possible that Malik could want to renegotiate a new deal with Blumhouse. It's always possible. We don't know what Malik has up his sleeve. We have no idea what he wants to do. Maybe he wants to turn something into a series. Maybe he wants to do Season of the Witch. Maybe he wants to let it rest for a while. We have no idea what he wants to do. Jason Blum and Universal they have no say in that. So it will be interesting to see what he does. Maybe he doesn't do anything. But I think it is safe to say, unless, and again, this is how it is right now, and I do believe them. I do believe them. I think it is safe to say right now that this will be the last Halloween movie as we know it to be, connected to the 1978 original in this story. That doesn't mean that they won't reboot Halloween somewhere down the road. Of course they will. Michael Myers will always live on. Halloween will always live on in some sort of fashion. But in terms of James Jude Courtney and, you know, Allison and Andy Matichak and this story going forward with another 4 or 5, no, I don't think that's going to happen. Now, maybe it will. I mean, maybe it will somewhere down the road. Maybe there'll be like a 20th anniversary of Halloween 18 where Andy, you know, we revisit her and she's now, you know, 55 years old and maybe that'll happen. Who knows? And then it is a Halloween film that's connected to the 1978 original. But I don't get the sense that Halloween Ends will end and then, you know, a couple years later, there's going to be some sort of announcement that they're doing a sequel to that movie again. I don't think that's the case. I do think that this is sort of the end, no pun intended, of the road here for this incarnation, for this version. But we'll see what happens down the road, right? We'll see what happens down the road. I think that's what you mean, but my apologies if it's not. Mark Williams sends in $4.99, says, "Hey Dave, have you seen the film The Place Beyond the Pines? One of my favorites. I think you'd appreciate the themes and execution. Cheers." Well, thank you, Mark, for sending that in. I have not. I have heard of that movie though, but I have not seen it. So thank you for the recommendation. I will make sure to watch it. WLJJ Movie says, "Hey Dave, what is your favorite Godzilla movie?" My favorite of all time is Godzilla 1985, the Americanized version with Raymond Burr. That was the version that I saw in the movie theater. It was my first Godzilla movie ever see. Not my first Godzilla movie, but the first one I ever saw in the theater with my dad. That, of course, is the Americanized version of The Return of Godzilla, I think it's called, if I'm not mistaken, the 1984 Japanese film, which, of course, is a direct sequel to Godzilla, which, yeah, it gets kind of complicated. So Godzilla 1985 is a direct sequel to the American 1956 Godzilla King of the Monsters with Raymond Burr. The original Godzilla is 1954, I believe. That's the original Japanese film without Raymond Burr. And then the 1984 Godzilla movie is a sequel to that movie. Anyway, my favorite's Godzilla 1985. And I actually am a big fan of the 2019 Godzilla King of the Monsters. I think that's a better movie than Godzilla 2014. And I think it's and I like it better than Godzilla versus Kong. Boy, I can hardly speak today. It's because my mouth is so dry. I was doing voiceovers all morning. I like it better than Godzilla versus Kong. I had fun with Godzilla versus Kong, but I didn't like it as much as Godzilla King of the Monsters. I actually like Godzilla King of the Monsters. It gets a bad rap. What are you talking about? I mean, look, it's not a great film, but I like it. I do. I'd have to go back and look at the list of the ones from the 70s. They got really cheesy. There's one, I forget the name. Maybe it's just Godzilla versus Gigan. Maybe that's what it's called. But it's the one where he faces Gigan and he's got a friend. And there's like this alien race that turns into cockroaches or something at the very end. That was one I really liked. And I remember taping that on VHS in the 80s. But a lot of Godzilla movies from the 70s are really bad. Like they're just, and I know they're supposed to be this way, but I like it when Godzilla is taken seriously. You know, I mean, as serious as you can take a gigantic, dinosaur. I'm not a big fan of a lot of the B cheesy Godzilla movies from the 70s. There's a couple that are kind of fun to watch, but overall, I'm not a big fan of them. But yeah, Godzilla 1985 is my favorite. Was it Son of Godzilla? Is that really what it was? Let me see here. I'm going to Google that. A.B. James might be right, going hard into the paint. Look at that. Let me see here. Son of Godzilla. Let me just go to Google Images. No, that's not it. That's not it. That's not it. That is a bad... I've seen that movie. No, this one was... it might have just been Godzilla versus Gigan. It might have just been that. Yeah. Yeah, 1972. Godzilla versus Gigan. That was it. I'm pretty sure that's it. 1972, Godzilla versus Gigan. So that was one I really liked. Yeah, where he faces King Ghidorah, or King Ghidorah, as we know here in English. King Ghidorah. Yeah. I like that movie a lot. And I'm pretty sure that there's somebody turning into cockroaches at the end of that movie too. I'm almost positive. If there's not, my apologies. It's been a long time since I've seen that movie. But I'm almost positive there's some people turning into cockroaches there. But who knows? I don't know. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I like that movie too. I got that. Ooh, some more super chats. I gotta get these. Your favorite, you'd appreciate. Thank you. Yes. Fauci Cinema sends in $2. Says poster is going to be full frontal Myers with mask only. That is what Fauci is saying. You might be right. As Dr. Loomis says, you may be right. Pumpkinhead sends in $5. Says, I went to an old record store and bought a copy of the original Halloween 1978 VHS movie. Do you think I got ripped off? Haha. Do you have one? Oh, yes. I mean, listen, I was born in 1979, so I grew up as a young boy through the 1980s, and it was extremely difficult to get the original Halloween on VHS. Very difficult. And it wasn't, it was out there, but it was really hard. I mean, it wasn't like just walking into a store and picking it up. Then in the early 90s, Blockbuster put out they put out Halloween, and it had, and I own this because I remember, I think I was like 12 or 13. I saw like an ad for it, or maybe I was at Blockbuster and I was like, oh my God, that's fucking Halloween. And it was crazy because you just couldn't, it was impossible. And I'm sure many of us who are my age and maybe even a bit younger will remember the Blockbuster Halloween 1978 case. I have it. I still have it. I still own it. I don't know if it might be in storage. So that was when I rushed over. This is like 1990, I don't know, 2 or 3. I was like 13. I rushed into Blockbuster and I bought it. And I was like, and I ran home and I watched it, which is like, I already know, but it felt like, no, I need to watch this because I just bought it and it's new and I got to watch it, you know? Since then, basically since Halloween H2O, it's been quite easy to buy Halloween, thanks to Halloween H2O. So in the late 90s, I have Halloween on VHS, I think 4 or 5 times. I have Halloween, the TV cut on VHS. They put that one out at in the late 90s as well, or early 2000s or whatever. So that's really cool, man. That's really cool though. That's awesome. Do you have the old media? Like, does it say media on your VHS case? Because I'm wondering if you have like an original. I want to get one off eBay. There's some people selling them. I want to get like an original, of course they're really expensive, like an original first edition VHS release of Halloween. Woo! That would be awesome to have. That'd be awesome to have. But thank you for sharing that, man. That's really cool. I love doing that kind of stuff. If you're ever in Hollywood, folks, and you're on Sunset Boulevard, now I think they're on Hollywood Boulevard. They used to be on Sunset. Go and check out Amoeba Records. Whew, you will thank me for it if you have not checked them out before. And when your heart is content, check them out again. Pumpkinhead sends in $2, says, movie was $10. Well, I mean, it would depend on what condition it was in. It would depend on what version of it, right? I mean, VHS did you get ripped off? I don't think so. I mean, you know, it probably should have been like $5, but Halloween's hot right now. And the person in the store probably knew that. So he probably thought he could get $10 for it, he or she, excuse me. And they were right. So, if you had said like $30, I'd say, yeah, take that back and get your money back. But, you know, it's a little overpriced, but not that bad. Vince follows up again and says, switching gears, have you watched all of Obi-Wan? I have. I really love the last 2 episodes. Huge emotional punch. Also, do you have a favorite lightsaber? My favorite lightsaber would probably, well, actually, I really did Kylo Ren's. You can see it back there, actually. I really like Kylo Ren's, but more traditional, I would have to say probably Luke's, which would have been Anakin's, the blue lightsaber. But Darth Vader's is great too. In other words, no, I guess I don't have one particular one. I liked Obi-Wan for what it was, but I thought the writing was very weak. I thought a lot of the writing was very weak. Yeah, I just thought it was kind of, I think I talked about this before, but yeah, I mean, I didn't hate it. It's always great to see Ewan in that role because I think he's a great actor anyway, and he's great in that role. So I enjoyed it for what it was. But it's. I don't want to say it's pretty forgettable. I'd say that it's, well, maybe it is. I would say that it's not a show that I would rewatch again. Yeah, that's just me. Okay, where are we here? We've gone 2 hours. Crazy how time flies. That's insane. Rio Reveal sends in $6.99, says, hope you're doing well, my friend. I was wondering if you can do a 2 dudes and some BS on the movie Misery this Monday. Rest in peace, James Caan. Well, we're not doing Misery this Monday. No, Tony and I usually have several weeks in advance planned out. But Misery is something we definitely should do. Have we not done Misery? I should ask Tony what his thoughts are on Misery. I think he likes it. But definitely that I could see that being a movie that Tony and I watch sometime in the future for sure. For sure. But it won't be this Monday though. But thank you, Theo, for the super chat. I really appreciate it. Let's see here. Let's get some non-super chat ones. David Irwin says, the Friday VHS tapes were everywhere, but yeah, couldn't find Halloween anywhere. Yeah, no, it was really tough, wasn't it? It was really tough. I mean, that's why everybody went berserk when Blockbuster released it. I mean, if you could walk into a Blockbuster or some store and find well, first of all, finding VHS tapes really wasn't a huge, I mean, you could get them for sure. But it was still kind of sparse in the 80s. But you're right. Yeah, no, I mean, that's why people went nuts. If Halloween had been easy to get, it wouldn't have been such a big deal, but it was. And you talk to anybody, I don't know how old you are, but you talk to anybody my age, a little bit older, maybe even a little bit younger. They're all like, oh yeah. Halloween, Blockbuster, finally. You could just finally walk in, unless you were one of the lucky ones to have obtained a copy of Halloween on VHS in the early to mid 80s, or the mid 80s, I guess, maybe somewhere around there. Then great, cool, right? And it would have been one that had the media cover. There would have been the media logo on it. I'm pretty sure that's the OG release from media. I'm pretty sure. They're out there. Not in the greatest condition, most of them, but they're out there. I would love to get it. Of course, people know that there's some people that are selling them on eBay for like, yeah. I'll have to check again, though. Maybe the prices come down. Maybe it has. Andrew Stevens sends in $2. Says, great Friday stream. I think so. I think it's been a pretty good stream today. By the way, folks, for those of you in the chat room right now, hit that like button if you haven't already. There's 194 still watching. There's 82 people that have hit the like button. Hit the like button. Of course, it helps the stream. It helps the video. It helps in terms of reach and things like that. So make sure you do that if you haven't already. And the best part is I will not send you an invoice if you do it. It is absolutely free. Absolutely free. All you have to do is just reach up with your finger and just go bloop like that. That's it. It's incredible, really. It's absolutely incredible. Let's see. Bob Birkin says, saw it on TV. It never, ever did happen again. I don't know. You guys are talking about something else, I think. Perhaps. Maybe not. David Irwin says, I was born in 79 too, Dave. Amazing 79 baby. Right there, baby. Well, there we go. Right there. My fellow 79 baby. So yeah, you know it. I mean, you You get it. You're like, fuck. It wasn't that. You know, it's like trying to tell people that Michael even wasn't a thing in the 80s. I mean, you'd remember that too, right? You know, because it was Freddie and Jason. That's who ruled the 80s. It's who ruled. I mean, not that he wasn't, he didn't exist at all. But Freddie and Jason, let's just put it this way. It would have been more likely that Max in Stranger Things season 2 had a Jason Voorhees mask as opposed to a Michael Myers mask. It would have been more likely, okay, in Stranger Things season 4 that Eddie had put on a Jason mask than a Michael Myers mask. The probability is so low that it would have been a Michael Myers mask that you could bet on it. Do you know what I mean? And it certainly wouldn't look like that either. That was a Tots mask. But yeah, no, it was tough, man. It was tough finding anything Halloween in the 80s. Let me see. Okay, let me go. Okay, so we're over 2 hours now. Wow, 2 hours. Holy shit. We've been rocking it in this stream. We've been rocking it. The stream has been rocking. I got so many tabs open here. We got here. We have been rocking it. All right. Okay. Should we keep going? Should we keep going? Should the stream keep going? That's what I want to know. Should the stream go just a little bit longer? Should we go? Let's do it. Fuck it. We'll do it live. We'll do it live. We're going to do it live. We're doing it live right now. Let's do it live, baby. Let's do it live. Of course, how many people actually watch 2.5 hour streams? Probably nobody. People are going to look at that and go, oh shit, Dave's talking for 2. God, I can't stand that blowhard. He's just going to sit there and fuck. He's so loud. I am loud, actually. I am. Ironically, not in day-to-day life, though. It's not like I go into the grocery store. Where's the bread? Can you imagine? That'd be awful. Fast Forwards 289 sends in a very generous super chat. I do see Ben's. I'll get back to Ben's in a second here. Of $19.99. Thank you, Fast Forwards. Says, what's up, Dave? Hope you've been well. I have. I'm not doing too bad. Not too shabby. You're right. Halloween was hard to find years ago. I'm only 27, but I can remember never being able to find the original anywhere as a kid. Not even played on TV. They always played part 2. That is true. I do remember, that is an astute point. I mean, you're quite, excuse me, a lot of water there. You are correct. If Halloween did come on television, it was usually part 2, not the original. Now, obviously that changed. I mean, now if you just watch AMC Fear Fest, they play the original 5 times in one day. But it wasn't always like that. It's true. It wasn't. Halloween was if you are a 2000s baby, maybe you're like 22 or 25, you're a huge Halloween fan. Oh man, I envy you because I was a huge Halloween fan when, like I said, and I'm largely a huge Halloween fan. Huge. I'm largely a huge Halloween fan. I wonder if Donald Trump's a Halloween fan. Maybe. Because my brother Neil, like I said, he got me into it. He's a huge Halloween fan because it was the first horror movie he ever watched. This is what he says. It's the first horror movie he ever watched that didn't give him nightmares. And he did like the movie, of course, too. But yeah, the 80s was tough because you had Halloween 2 in 81, and then there's that gap. 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, and then 88. At the end of 88, Michael comes back. And in that like 6, nearly 7 years, Freddie and Jason are tearing it up. It was a Freddie and Jason decade. And that's why when you would put on a Don Post The Mask in the 80s, which looked nothing like Michael Myers, people thought you were Jason. I had that mask. I can't tell you how many parents of my friends, oh, hi, oh, you're Jason. Ooh, scary. It's like, I'm not Jason. I'm Michael Myers. And then sometimes parents would be like, Michael Myers, Halloween, pumpkin. Oh, no. Because Friday the 13th was everywhere. I know. It's kill, mama. I know. I'm just saying. It was everywhere. Friday the 13th, part 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7, Elm Street 1 and 2 and 3 and 5. It was everywhere. And the last Halloween film they didn't have Michael in it anyway. So not only do you have, no Michael films between 81 and 88, you have a Halloween movie in 82 that didn't have him in it anyway. So it's crazy. Oh yeah. Michael was not around too much. It really was. And even when part 4 came out, which was a moderate success, and then you have 5, and then there's that gap to 6. Really, and I sincerely mean this, what really put Michael Myers back on the map, even though I'm not a fan of the movie, I think it's Michael Myers walked onto the set of Dawson's Creek. It's kind of what it looks like. Not a fan of, there's some, there's redeeming qualities. But overall, I'm not a fan of the movie. But one thing that Halloween H2O did was put Michael Myers back on the map. And in a way that Freddy and Jason weren't. Because there was that resurgence of the slasher subgenre in the mid to late 90s, thanks to Scream. So when Halloween H2O came out in 1998, it was a huge success because it was riding on the coattails of the success of Scream and this new rebirth of slasher movies. And it just, it put it back on the map. For better or worse, it put Michael Myers back into the, well, one could argue back into the pop culture zeitgeist, but one could even argue into the pop culture zeitgeist in a way it never was before. Which is why, like I said, after Halloween H2O, all of a sudden it was pretty easy to find Halloween 1978 on a shelf. You know what I mean? I don't mean like right away that summer, but I mean, because of that movie, you started to see like Walmart or Best Buy at Halloween time having a Halloween section, and the original Halloween would be there, on VHS, and then DVD in the early 2000s with that, hologram, cover. And then it was easy peasy to buy that original movie. And I think it was probably largely thanks to Halloween H2O. There was this Halloween resurgence, this new invested interest in Halloween. The studios realized, oh, this is profitable. So yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. Let me see. Oh, I got to go back to Ben. Ben Lowry sends in $1.99, says Halloween 6 was my first Halloween from Blockbuster. Hey, don't put a frowny face, man. That's okay. Halloween 6 was the first Halloween movie I ever saw in the movie theater. And I saw it twice. I saw Halloween H2O 3 times in the movie theater. Now I know what you're thinking. Why'd you do that? Well, let me explain. So Halloween 6, I was excited. Because I'm like, we're finally going to know who the man in black is. What the fuck is this shit going on? This kind of stuff, right? In 1995, I was 16. Bruce was 15. That's right. I've known Bruce a very long time. And we were going to go watch the movie together. Halloween. Now, listen, you had to be 18 to get in, but I felt confident because I matured very early. At 16, I kind of sounded like this. I could grow, facial hair and all that. Hey, what's going on? I sounded like I was 30. So I was confident I could get in. Bruce, I don't know. Bruce was 15, looked 14, sounded 12. No, it was a gamble, but we were going to do it. So we took the bus there to this little theater in this mall, and we go in, and I walk up to the I've told this before, but it's fun. Up to the box office, and there's this lady behind the counter. Actually, I say lady, I think she was probably my age. And I'm like, I'll, one for, Halloween 6, please. And the person, Michael Myers, acting all like, I'm 18. So, and she's like, okay. I'm like, oh, And then she goes, and how old is he? And I was like, he's 18. And she's like, well, I'll have to have, I need to see some ID. And I'm like, she didn't ask me for ID. She didn't ask me for ID, but she asked ID from Bruce. And Bruce didn't have, well, he did have ID on him, but the ID was going to show that he was 15. So he said he didn't have any ID on him and they wouldn't allow him in. But here's the crazy thing. So Bruce and I decided to go see separate movies. I went and saw Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, and Bruce went and saw Seven. Now, I know what you're thinking. Seven wasn't rated R? Nope. In Canada, it was rated 14A or double A, I think it was called. And you had to be 14 to get in. I don't think we have that rating anymore. I think it's changed to something else. But that's what it was then. So he went and saw Seven, and I went and saw Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers. And I can tell you right now that he saw the better movie. Clearly, Seven is a classic. It is a psychological thriller classic. I would have loved to have been able to say that I saw Seven in the theater. No, I can't. And then a week later, I went back with my dad because, I don't know, I was 16 and I wanted to watch I wanted to watch Michael Myers again in the theater. But I remember not liking that movie, going, called Thorn Black. You're a madman. You're a madman. A madman. I'm like, what is going on? And then I saw Halloween H2O 3 times in the movie theater. Why? Why did you, Dave? You did. Well, first of all, in 1998, I worked at a movie theater. And so I got free passes. Well, you always have to see it once, right? Because you don't know if you like the movie unless you see it. So the first time doesn't count. Second time the first time doesn't count. The question is, why did I do it twice? Well, the first time I saw it with Bruce and my brother Neil. So that doesn't count. The second time is because I took my friend Brian to see it because Brian was kind of getting into it a little bit and he wanted to see it. And I got free passes. So I was like, well, and free passes meaning I could treat myself and somebody to a free movie. So I said, well, Brian, why don't we go see Halloween H2O? And he's like, let's go do it. And I got us in for free. And then the third time was because my dad, I lived a fair bit away from my home, and my dad said that, and I was working a late shift. And this was when these kinds of movie theaters, the big Coliseum movie theaters with the stadium seating and all that, they were really new. And they used to play movies at like 11 o'clock at night. They don't really do that anymore. I mean, some might, but that first summer, they had like movies playing at like midnight. It was insane. It was insane. So I worked the late shift, and my dad was going to be a while. He was off doing something, some kind of reporting. I have no idea. And he said, well, I can swing by the theater, but it won't be till this time. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll just go watch a movie. And there wasn't anything. And I was like, well, I'll just go watch Halloween H2O again. So that's what I did. I went in by myself for the third time. I said, well, it's just killing a couple hours while I wait for my dad. So that's what I did. So that's why I saw Halloween H2O 3 times in the movie theater. But yeah, man, I mean, Halloween 6 was my first. Okay, let's, I got the Andrew Stevens says, take it to 4:20. We need a lunch break, Dave. We need a lunch break. Well, we're past 4:20 now. You know me, I'm fucking chatting like crazy. I never shut up. Let me see. Ben Lowry again says, Dave, much like Fast Before in 32, and remember, oh, you guys are speaking in code, and I get it because you're trying to get all the characters in. I get that. But Dave, much like Fast Before in 32, and remember Halloween on TV was usually 2, 4, 7, and Resurrection. I never got to see 5, only through rumors before online. Okay, I think I know what you're talking about. In 32, I'm not sure. Dave, much like Fast Before in 32. Guys, do your best to try and not speak in code. I'm not used to reading or doing that, so it takes me a bit to understand. Like, to me, this sounds like you're saying something happened in 1932, but I doubt you are. So my apologies, but I think I get what you're trying to say. talking about, again, how, it was crazy. Like, you couldn't see these things on TV. And I was like, what's going on? You know what I mean? Totally understand. I do understand, Ben. I absolutely do. Nick Jenny sends in $4.99, says, sure, you have answered before, but I'm a big music fan. What is your favorite version of it? The Halloween theme. Got to be Halloween 81 for me. I have to go classic, and not the one that you buy in the stores. I'm talking about the one they release, or the one that you hear when you watch the movie, because it doesn't have the beat. When you go and buy the Halloween soundtrack, when they released the Halloween soundtrack in, what was it, 79 or 80 or something, there's this beat that's there, and it is now it is the Halloween soundtrack. I mean, if I was to go to a store and buy it, if I was to order it online, if I was to download it, that is what you hear. You hear this, dun, 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 and you hear, it's this drum beat. That's fine. But when you watch the original Halloween, that drum beat's not there. It's just the tick, 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 tick. There's no drum beat. And I like that better. There's something about the drum beat I've never liked. It doesn't bother me to the point where it turns me off. I mean, it's still the Halloween theme, and everything else about it still sounds the same. But there's something about that beat that I've never liked, even going back as far back as being a teenager. There's something about that beat I'm not crazy on. And maybe it's because I was so self-aware that it doesn't appear in the actual movie. And I was being nitpicky about it. But for me, I got to go classic 78. But the synth score in 81 is pretty darn fucking great too. I will agree with that. Jesus Freak Bobby Reeve sends in $4.99 and says, I remember buying different Halloween DVDs with new cover art. When new cover art came out, Good Times would have 10 different copies of the original Halloween. Buddy, I am right there with you. I have the original Halloween about 6 times on DVD, between DVD, Blu-ray, 4K. I have the original Halloween on VHS like 4 or 5 times. Oh yeah, I'm right there with you. Yep, 100%. That's what we do. That's what we Halloween fans do. It's what we Halloween fans do. And it will happen again. I'm sure there'll be some 45th anniversary re-release of the movie, and we'll be like, oh, I'm going to get it. I'm getting it. It's just what we got to do, man. It's just what we got to do. Okay, got that. Adam Fink sends in $2, says Michael had to crawl so Freddy and Jason could run. Ooh, I see what you're saying there. Let me see. Ben Lowry sends in another $1.99. Thank you, Ben. Says, what is your gut feeling on the end of H Kills? You mean Halloween Ends? I think you mean Halloween Ends. Unless you do mean Kills. Well, I'll try and answer both quickly. The end of Halloween Kills, I think Karen is dead. It is what it is. You take it at face value. The end of Halloween Ends, I think they are correct. I think it is going to be very final. Yep. I don't know what that means. I don't know if Michael dies, Laurie lives. Laurie dies, Michael lives. Michael and Laurie both die. Everybody dies. I have no idea. But I do take them at their word in saying that this is the last movie in this story. That is our intention behind it. That doesn't mean it will be, right? Who knows what happens 5-10 years down the road. Malika Akkad all of a sudden wants to do, like I said earlier, a direct sequel to Halloween Ends. I don't know. But I believe the intention is we will walk out of the theater going, yes, this has ended. This story has ended. It does feel complete. So that's kind of my feelings right now. We're definitely going to have more thoughts next week when that trailer drops, for sure. Michael, Damnit, is that how you say it? $5. Thanks, buddy. Says the first Halloween movie I ever saw in the theater was Rob Zombie's Halloween. Ooh. Buddy, I took my then 63-year-old mother with me to see that. We all know in the first 5 minutes of that movie, I'm gonna crawl over there and skull, fuck you, bitch. And I'm sitting beside my senior mom. Now, my mom was a big fan. She's, passed now, but my mom was a big fan of the original Halloween, even part 2. She loved Michael Myers. She got a big kick out of when I would, when I would dress up as Michael Myers and put on the mask and all that kind of stuff. She loved it. She thought it, she loved it. She thought Michael was awesome. And I wouldn't say every Halloween, but many Halloweens, we would sit down and we would watch Halloween. So that's why I took my mom to, I had no idea. I guess maybe I was also not as familiar with Rob Zombie back then either. I mean, I knew he was a musician, and I knew he, I wasn't really into his songs, and I had heard of the House of a Thousand Corpses and the Devil's Rejects and stuff, but I had no idea that it was going to be what it was. And if I did know, I would not have taken my mom. I mean, she's not a prude. I mean, she was fine, but it's just that I have one of those relationships, or had, I should say, with my parents where, like I don't really want to watch a sex scene with my mom. I don't really want to watch a sex scene with my dad. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like I have that, like I love my parents and we could talk about everything, but I don't know how comfortable I feel about sitting in a theater with my mom watching somebody say, I'm going to crawl over there and skull fuck you, bitch. It's just kind of like, it's kind of awkward, and especially at that time. I mean, I was only 28, So anyways, yeah. I did not bother going to see Halloween 2, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 in the theater. I was like, fuck that. I'm not doing that. I watched it later. Okay, let's see here. Vince comes in again, going hard into the paint. Vince, I really appreciate the super chat. Says Dave and Jesus Freak. Oh, he's talking to somebody else in the chat. Jaws is my favorite movie since I was very young. Across VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, and Laserdisc. I have at least 20 copies of the first Jaws. Love it. And I swear that, and I wear that badge with pride. And so you should. I can't, listen, Jaws is one of my favorite movies as well, period. It's a top, depending on how I feel, it may not make it into the top 5, but it is top 10. Easy top 10. Easy. It's one of my favorite movies ever. It's got so much rewatchability, it's insane. And I have it on VHS. I have it on DVD. I have it on Blu-ray. I don't know if I have it on 4K. Did they release it on 4K? I think they have. They must have. I don't think I have it on... Yeah, no, they did. They did release it on 4K. I don't have it on 4K yet. But yeah, Jaws is great. Wear that badge proud, my man. Wear that badge proud. Wear that badge proud. 100%. Wear it proud. All right, we'll go another few minutes and then we will skedaddle. I've been going nearly 2.5 hours on this stream. I am riding solo. So folks, you see the energy I bring to my shows. You see the energy I bring to my, these streams. Try doing this at this level for 2.5 hours. Whew, and all I'm drinking is water. I wonder how many calories I burn doing these shows. How many do you think? Like, probably at least 100. I would think at least 100. Maybe not. I don't know. Who knows? Ben Lowry, another $9.99 says, final super chat for me, sir. No problem at all. Born in 90, too little for H6 in theaters. What was it like in the lead up to the release? I ask because it will always be the scariest for me. Atmosphere and mood and my favorite mask. Well, really cool. That's awesome. Well, I was, it was exciting because there had not been a Halloween movie in 6 years, and they left on such a weird cliffhanger with it felt like it came out of left field, which it did. We do know now in retrospect that the director, Dominic something, or I always get his name wrong. But we do know that he, by his own admission, wrote this weird sort of subplot with the Man in Black because he didn't feel that the movie had enough kick, enough oomph. And he had no idea who this was. Like, he's on record as saying, I have no idea who it is. And that writing 101, you don't do that. You have to at the very least have a vague idea of who this is supposed to be. You might not have all the details worked out, but you have to know why you're introducing him in terms of a character. What's his motivation? What is this? He had no idea. He just wanted something to, I was like, what? And Halloween 5 was a colossal failure. So, that's why it took so long to sort of make a 6. They did. The lead up was, for Halloween fans, was exciting because we were finally going to get answers. We were finally going to get, who is the man? I just remember that being a big thing, amongst Halloween fans. Who is this fucking man in black? We had no idea that it was going to end up being, Dr. Wynn and this druid cult and Thorn and oh, no, we had no idea. We had no idea. I do agree with you that Halloween 6 has great atmosphere, for sure. It has way better atmosphere than Halloween 5. It's more in line with 4. So I do agree with you there. I do. It has redeeming qualities like a lot of the Halloween films I don't like do. I can even find a few redeeming qualities in Resurrection, for example. But Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers is just, it's just not a movie. I just don't like the story. And I don't care if you're watching the producer's cut or the director's cut. It's still the same story. Yes, the producer's cut gives you more context to the story, but it's already the story I don't like. So I don't want more, and I believe it's the producer's cut where Michael changes clothes with Dr. Wynn and then walks off into the ether in a trench coat and a fedora. Are you kidding me? How is that better? How is that better? I mean, I don't like the ending of the theatrical cut either, where you just see his mask and Donald Pleasance going, ah! I don't like that either, but I will take that over Michael stripping naked. And how did he put his jumpsuit on? What the hell? It's just so weird. The producer, look, there's a lot of things they did in the producer's cut that does improve the movie, but it's still, for me, if you love it and it's your favorite, like I've said, that's all that matters at the end of the day. That's all that matters. I can never tell you what not to like or love. I can't do that. That's ridiculous. And nor do I ever try. Real Reveal 279. Have you seen Orphan? Have I think what you're trying to say is, I have seen the original Orphan. I haven't seen it in a while. Cause what is that? Like 7 or 8 years ago now or something? I don't remember not liking it. I think I liked it. But I haven't seen the trailer to the new Orphan yet. I think it's the same girl too, isn't it? I think so. Harry Hagen, my man, sends in $2, says, just arrived. Did you speak about the Munsters trailer? I did, Harry. Yes, I did. You'd have to go back, but I did. Yes. It's awful, Harry. It's terrible. It's a cult. I don't know if this, kitschy, low budget look is intentional or if it's just incompetence. I have no idea. But I'm right there with you. It's like, what is this? This is not good. This is not good. But if it's intentional, then at least he can defend it by saying, well, no, we made a conscious creative choice to make it look wacky, silly, kitschy, and cheap. Okay. It just might not be for me. Now this is Javid Ben. I don't have my glasses. Excuse me. Javid Ben Kosame. Am I saying that correct? I'm trying to figure out where the emphasis would be. Ben Kosame, maybe? Something like that? Javid Ben Kosame. Something like that, maybe? I could be wrong. Very generous super chat, though. Thank you very much. 2018, the kid being late to ballerina in Kills. Jamie knees a male in the nuts. Wait a minute. That wasn't... Oh, no, I guess that was in Halloween. No, that wasn't Halloween Kills. Wasn't it? When she kneeled the doctor in the... Not believable when women was able when women was able to swing a bag with bricks in it with enough force to cause damage. Should have given that scene to Doyle. Yeah, I think you're talking about the scene where Laurie out of nowhere kneels a doctor. I thought it was in the gut. Maybe it was in the balls. Maybe it was in the balls. Yeah, that was a funny sort of. It did make me laugh and felt a little unnecessary. I guess it was just. I don't know if that was written into the script or if that was just an idea that came to them on set. Like, hey, because it just adds to the commotion and all that kind of stuff. I don't know, but yeah, there are creative choices, like, things we like, things we don't like, right? Ben Lowry, $1.99 says, when did you first hear about the producer's cut of H6? Probably the late 90s, early 2000s, maybe. Would have been somewhere around there when the internet started to kind of really become a thing. And you could like find information in forums and things like that. Probably somewhere around there. Okay, I got to get out of here. Harry Hagen, $5 says, how good does Halloween Ends have to be for you to consider the whole trilogy a success? And what do you is the weirdest entry, or what do I think is the weirdest entry in the series? Probably Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, I would say, is probably the weirdest entry into the series. And then to be a success, I don't know, Harry, because the thought is you can stick the landing by not insulting Halloween fans, but it doesn't necessarily improve the previous two movies. So, but I will answer your question like this. I just hope that they don't do anything too crazy. And at the end of the day, it is still a Halloween movie, and they bring that in for a landing. They bring it in for a landing where it doesn't insult the intelligence of Halloween fans. They don't do something crazy and, like I've been saying, avant-garde, right? Experimental or weird. Now I know that, it's weird and different is out there, but that doesn't mean that they've made necessarily weird choices. Like extreme. I'm talking about extreme, like really extreme. The movie could be weird in comparison to what's come before, but overall it's not as extreme, right? And what's weird to some might not be weird to others. You know what I mean? It can be very subjective. I just hope that it's still a Halloween movie at the end of the day, and there's stalking, there's lurking, there's, that mood and atmosphere we love, because it's still got to be a Halloween movie. It still has to be a Halloween movie, and if this really is it, the 1978 Swan Song, if this truly is it, then, you got to deliver on those classic things. I don't mean fan service. I mean things that are just part of the DNA of Halloween, the part of the DNA of the character of Michael Myers. You don't have to overdo it. You don't have to overcompensate. You don't have to hit us on the nose. Oh, look, here's your stalking scene. Are you satisfied now? Here's your lurking scene. No. It's gotta feel organic. But I just don't want it to feel, too weird, and then maybe it will be a success. Whether it will make me think that the trilogy is a success, I don't know. I have no idea. Okay, Javid sends in $5 again. It says, all men are dumb in both movies and they die more brutal deaths than the women. Glad kills don't have any naughty scenes, though. Well, I would beg to differ. I would say that I think a lot of people in the movie are dumb. I think there's a lot of dumb choices that we see everybody making. I mean, you don't necessarily see your main leads making them, but I don't think it's necessarily because they are women. It's because they are the lead. I mean, it just so happens in a Halloween film, your lead is, it's like a final girl, right? I mean, when you look at slasher movies, the final girl is smarter than the rest of everybody else. That's why she's the last one standing. And generally speaking, why she survives. So I think it's just, I get what you're saying, but if I'm reading you correctly, and I think I am, that you're hinting at there's a oh, we'll make the women strong and powerful, but the men dumb and weak. I didn't get that impression watching Halloween Kills. I think just everybody's just dumb, apart from your main, few, for obvious reasons. They're your leads and they just so happen to be women. You can't have Lori and Allison making the same dumb decisions or they would die in the first 10 minutes of the movie too. So they logically will make smarter decisions because they have to carry the movie. But I just think there's dumb things happening all around, in my opinion. But then again, I haven't watched the movie in like 8 or 9 months, so I'd probably have to go back and revisit it. All right, folks, that is going to do it for me here on this Friday. I was going to say AMA. Well, I guess it's an AMA. Q&A, Friday Q&A. That is going to do it for me. Thank you to everybody, each and every one of you out there who tuned in this afternoon to talk shop, just to hang out and talk about movies and talk about Halloween and all that kind of jazz. I really, really do appreciate you guys tuning in, sincerely. And thank you to all of the super chats that came in today. I really do appreciate it. When it's a stream like this, sometimes it's difficult for me to get to the non-super chat ones. It's not personal. I love you guys too, but obviously with super chats, I have to give them priority for obvious reasons. And I am very detailed with my answers. It doesn't matter if you send in $1 super chat or a $50 super chat. I like to take my time with it. Because I'm passionate and I get excited about this kind of stuff. So, but I really do appreciate all the super chats. Thank you to my great moderators, of course, Frank Riker, Tab of the Short, Darren Sands, Chris Baber, for doing all that you do. I really appreciate that as well. So, that's going to do it for this Q&A here on this Friday, July 15th, 2022. We are 5 days away, folks. 5 days away. Comment below and let me know your thoughts about anything I've talked about here today. If you're watching after the fact, comment below. Let me know your thoughts. If you're watching live and you're like, I really want to make a comment below. Start the discussion below. Start the discussion and get it going in there and talk amongst yourselves, folks. I want to know. I do read a lot of your comments. Obviously, I can't read all of them, but I do read a lot of them. I can't reply to everybody. Obviously, that's nearly impossible. But I do appreciate you starting the engagement in the comment section below regardless. All right, folks, have a great rest of your weekend. Oh, Earth is flat. That's what Javid says the Earth is flat. Well, if that's your opinion, you paid to say it. You are entitled to believe the Earth is flat. If that's how you feel, that is how you feel. And you spent money to say it. That's okay. That's okay. Have a great rest of your weekend. I'll be back, of course, Monday. Well, you never know. I might have a video over the weekend. You never know. But I'll definitely be back Monday night at 6:00 p.m. with another episode of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. And then getting ready for, it's going to be exciting. You're going to want to be tuning in here, folks. You're going to be wanting to tune in. I might have a video. I might have a live stream. You never know. Fuck, it's going to get crazy on this channel next week. Do not forget about it. All right. Have a great rest of your weekend. And I will... and hey, if you want to follow me on social media, all my links are in the description. There they are, right there. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Check them out until your heart's content. And when your heart is content, check them out again. I got to go rest now. This was a hell of a show. In the meantime and in between time, I will talk to you soon. Cheers.